So, good afternoon, everyone. In fact, today we have our class on various provisions related to the tax collection at source. And in this regard, the Institute has also come out with a publication on the tax collection at source, which actually covered almost all the related provisions related to the tax collection at source, as well as the related penalties and certain provisions related to GST also, that where the TCS provisions are there. Today we have our keynote speaker, Mr. Ankit Garg also, who shall be dealing with and rather setting the tone for the today's subject. So before I invite him to speak, I request organizers to please introduce Ankit Garg to the all participants.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am happy to have the opportunity to introduce the eminent personality having experience in corporate tax, indirect tax, and transfer pricing. I, Shweta Rathore, on behalf of Kalani & Company, welcoming our guest, PA Ankit Garg, currently managing corporate tax and transfer pricing function at Marico Limited, India. It is a great honor for all of us to have you as our guest for this professional discussion on income tax collection at source. He merely requires an introduction though. He also worked as tax consultant with PwC and Deloitte, having key experience in tax advisory, compliance, and litigation with varied industry clients. He has also done his articleship from Kalani & Company. And lastly, I would like sir to please enlighten the articles with his words of wisdom.
Yeah, so Ankit, over to you.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you, Bhupen sir, and thank you to Kalani team for providing me such a wonderful opportunity to share some of my time with you. I have done my entire articleship with Kalani & Company between 2014 to 2016, and just wanted to take one moment before the topic of the course, that it has been one of the most useful and precious time of my entire career, be it professional, personal career. And it is kind of a fan moment when I come back to the Kalani and Company Saturday class. I can assure you all of those who have taken this decision to continue their or learn during their internship with the Kalani and Company, that you have made a right choice in your in your professional career. And I'm sure that wherever you will go, probably all the lessons on a day-to-day basis for all the 365 days of 3 years, you would be remembering whatever has been taught to you in Kalyan and Company. And kind of even if like it's been 7 years since I'm working in a professional environment, but not even one day goes that I do not probably remember the lessons taught by our esteemed partners, Jamar sir, or other partners. So again, Bhupen sir, a big thank you to you also for taking this Saturday class initiative to such a very high level and at a very high initiative. I still remember taking Saturday class in our old office and preparing the topics in a physical mode. There was no virtual mode at the time. Vikas sir, you, Deepak Bhuya, and all presenting over there, guiding how to present it, and then having very interesting discussions. So thank you so much for providing this opportunity.
Yeah.
Let me just-
So in fact, because of the virtual mode, now we are able to connect with a lot of other good speakers as well as our alumni from Kalani and Company. So that's the advantage which we have because of the virtual mode. And I just thought that I should basically call for those who are actually into the field, who are actually working into that particular subject matter. And when I found that you are working with Marico Limited as and looking the taxation, so you are the one of the choice for taking the subject.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Just wanted to take 30 seconds more, just to share with everyone. I am working as a core tax professional for last 6 or 7 years. I work with PwC, Deloitte, like Shweta mentioned, and now handling the entire corporate tax, transfer pricing, international taxation part at Marico Limited, which is a listed multinational company. And all this started with probably 3 or 4 months of working with Viren Parwal sir at 5th floor. So you can say that how the small actions of big people can can make big changes in your life. Those 3 or 4 months of the internship or learning with Kalyan Company has shaped my entire career and probably my entire future. So that's why just my suggestion and to you everyone is to take this very seriously. Obviously happy to help anyone who wants any kind of want to connect for any kind of support, help, any kind of learning and etc. I'm 24 hours available for anyone who connects from Kalyan Company. Okay, so yes, so moving ahead with the topic. So Bhupen sir has given me the topic of tax collection at source. Recently, our esteemed institute has circulated various kind of handbooks and treaties on technical points, which are very much helpful not only for the professionals but also for the students. One of the handbook was released on account of TCS under GST and TCS under Income Tax Act. I would be taking you through the tax collection at source, mainly in the income taxes, and then on GST. Course outline would be, I'll be just introducing you what is TCS, why it was introduced. Then we'll go to the sections which are governing TCS, what kind of rules are applicable, what kind of penal provisions are there if we do not comply with the TCS provisions, what kind of mechanism is provided in GST law as well. Feel free to raise your hand, type in chat box, or unmute yourself and raise any queries you want without any hesitation, so that we can have an interactive session and we can discuss. So to set the context. Yes. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Aditya.
Good afternoon, Ankit Bhaiya. I'm Aditya here.
Yes, Aditya, I could recognize you with your voice. We have worked together on few of the audits. Yes. Definitely, I remember.
Yes, I would like to tell our articles that I have worked with Ankit Bhaiya in few audits, and he is one of the best seniors I have in my articleship period. And when today I came to know that you are taking the session, so I thought I will also join the session and learn from you.
In fact, Aditya, you should keep on joining, because my other sessions will also be on taxation in coming Saturday classes.
Of course, sir. Of course, sir.
Sir, Bhupen sir, I'll tell you, whenever I receive any link, I ensure to share with my team as well in Marico Limited, and ask them that do join these sessions, do attend on YouTube if you find the topics relevant for you, and everyone knows about the Saturday class in my office as well.
Correct.
Thank you for your kind words, Aditya.
Continue,
We'll
sir.
try to do the justice
Continue,
to the
very-
time that is given to me.
Yes, of course. Sir.
So, sorry.
Good afternoon, Dinesh this side.
Yes, yes. Hey, hi, hi. Hi, Rahul. Hi, Divesh. Hi. Such a good time to connect with all. Divesh has also worked with me and kind of a very good friend and a good colleague there in Kalani. Okay, so moving ahead, since this topic is on the income taxes, there's a very one of the quote that I like the most, which is that in tax often the question remains the same, but the answer changes. And probably this single statement is enough to highlight the topic that we are dealing with, the complications that we deal with in the Income Tax Act, and the role of the professionals in the Income Tax Act. That when the question is same, how do you interpret it? How do you apply your mind? How better you apply the law, the provisions? Not just the Income Tax Act, the circulars and etc. being issued by the department, the case laws and etc. pronounced by the High Court and Supreme Court, etc. But even the Constitution of India itself, the articles of the Constitution of India are very much relevant to the Income Tax Act. Hence, whenever you are dealing with income tax, be it when you are studying, be it when you are helping a as a consultant, or when you work in an organization, you have to understand your role, that when you are dealing with something called income tax, it is very much a big responsibility on your shoulders, that how you give the answer to the stakeholder. Coming to the introduction of the topic, which is tax collection at source, I'll first give you a genesis of how TCS or TDS came into the picture. What is the reason that right now there is such a thrust on the TDS and TCS provisions, that even if the charging sections of Income Tax Act, the applicability of the taxability of the income being taxable under the Income Tax Act is even lower or narrower than the widening of the scope of the TDS and TCS. And this all probably started with a project which is called Project Insight. Project Insight is generally, the use of the data analytics by the Government of India, by the Income Tax Department, who wants to identify the taxpayers who fall into the high risk of the tax evasion. Instead of putting the manual efforts into identifying the loss to the government, the department has tried to use the technology. And when I say the word technology, it is not kind of an outdated technology wherein the things are happening on computer. Rather, it is a technology which is very much advanced, which includes machine learning, artificial intelligences, all kind of permutation combinations, the data sharing between the different organizations, different departments of the government, be it your customs department, be it your GST, Income Tax Act, your banks, your companies which are distributing dividend and etc. Everyone who is required to update the information in an electronic manner, the government then uses the information in a way which is called the Project Insight. Now, there are 5 main pillars of Project Insight. One of the foremost pillar is TDS and TCS. TDS and TCS is nowhere relating to kind of, recovery of the taxes. The entire purpose of TDS and TCS by the government is how do they check and put balance in the organization, in the entire domain of the income tax, to identify who is paying an income to the person, who is the income earner, and whether the person is actually filing his income tax return. So this is the reason of entire increased TDS and TCS compliances. If you guys are aware, there are around 50 sections as of now which govern solely the applicability of TDS or TCS. And then there are hundreds of provisions which actually help into the compliance, reporting, recovery, and etc. of the TDS. So there are around 100 of the sections which are specifically only for the TDS and TCS under the Income Tax Act. All kind of transactions that you can think of, be it your normal purchase sale, be it your any kind of other income, interest income, royalty income, dividend income, fee for technical services, contractual payments being made, any kind of income earned on debentures, mutual funds, shares, capital gains, sale of land, bank remittances, cash payments, whatever you can name, everything is covered under TCS and TCS, just to gather the information. Then you have seen multiple provisions by the government which are promoting the digital payments. Government has put forth certain kind of provisions which require that if your turnover crosses a threshold, then you have to provide the QR code for the UPI payment or any kind of RTGS and NEFT facility. There are through Section and SS and T kind of sections available which provide that you can't accept deposits and etc. There are disallowances under Section 40 for the cash payment that you make. Those are all kind of measures taken by the government so that digital payments are being promoted. Once you do the digital payments, there is a digital trail in your ERP, in your software. Once there's a trail in your software, TCS provisions will apply, TDS provisions will apply. Once TCS provisions will apply, a person will report the transaction to the government, and then they have the entire trail of the transaction. Third thing is SFTRA 286, which is Statement of Financial Transactions. Few of you would have dealt with it, that there are compliance requirement on banks, post offices, companies declaring dividends, stamp authorities, land registry authorities, and etc., who are required to report all kind of transactions, even if they have done a transaction of 1 rupee with a person. For example, if a bank has a FD or a savings interest payment to a person, then they need to report all kind of transactions in a statement of financial transactions. All the sale or purchase of the land and building and etc. are being reported by the registry authorities. All the companies which are declaring dividends are required to report the dividend income etc. under the statement of financial transactions. Then, as you all are aware of, there is a requirement of Aadhaar, PAN, and bank linking. Aadhaar must be linked with PAN, PAN must be linked with bank, and Aadhaar must be linked with your bank. So there is a Bermuda Triangle kind of a thing wherein nothing can escape. If you have any one thing out of these three, department will catch hold of you. Department will understand that what kind of expense you are incurring. And then the last one is on account of the pre-filled ITR. You are aware of, as of now, you go on income tax filing portal. There's a pre-filled XML or JSON file available over there. You download it, and then every information of the transactions are aware. And I can say, as of now, if you give access to your login ID portal to a CA, the CA would have better knowledge of your doings than you own or your family members. You might forget some kind of transactions regarding what kind of investment you have made, but your CA will be able to see it. You all know there is a thing called reporting portal. In reporting portal, there are TIS and AIS statements available, annual information statement and transaction information statement, TIS and AIS. You download the TIS and AIS. All the information which are covered or gathered by the department in all these four things, TCS, TDS, digital payments, Subtra, and Aadhaar, PAN, bank linking, will be made available to you. And as soon as you start preparing your ITR 1, 4, 6, 7, whatever is applicable on you, you will see most of the information are automatically pre-fetched and gathered out of these information. And as soon as you make any changes, it automatically gets highlighted to the CPC, which is your centralized processing center at Bangalore. The center which has the resources to run on all kind of digital formulas and can identify, are you doing something wrong in your ITR? Is there something you are claiming which is not being affirmed or submitted by any other party? Is there some income which is not offered to tax by you but is being reported by the payer by way of any TDS, TCS, or by way of any SFTR? So if you look at the overall perspective, what I say is that when you look at TDS, TCS, don't look at TDS, TCS provisions with the purpose of recovery of taxes. No, these are not recovery of taxes. The rate can be as minuscule as 0.01%, 0.075%. You have to look to the TDS, TCS provisions from the perspective of how the information will be used by the department when they do the assessment. Are you really required to do the transition in a manner to avoid TDS and TCS? And if the answer is that there can be a risk in future, ensure correct reporting of TDS and TCS. There is no any provision. I can say, though it looks like a TDS process, but TDS, TCS are very simplest manner kind of a provision wherein everything can be corrected on the portal. Everything is digital only. Things are being appearing to the any person, director, director, and everyone. So my view is that take the TDS, TCS provisions very seriously in line with the intention of the government. Any questions? If anyone have, please feel free to unmute and let me know. Now, coming to the specific topic of TCS. Basically, TCS is tax collection at source. If you look at the TCS provisions, you would find that mainly the genesis of TCS provisions was to curb the black money and the corruption. All those items in India which generated a kind of a corruption at a very high level or at a very above level, which is the government level, were initially plugged by the use of the TCS by the government. For example, in 1980s or in 1990s, when there were various kind of government tenders being floated by the department, the respective ministries, coal, mining, alcohol, kind of, these alcohol tenders, the liquor tenders, and etc. In all those cases, a lot kind of, mafias and contractors and etc. used to earn income from the government, which were generally not able to catch, which were not reported by these guys. And accordingly, department first came with the TCS provisions on these kind of income. And this was the genesis of the TCS to curb the black money and corruption, that apply the TCS on the person who is a larger person, who is a bigger person, who is more compliant, who has a more visibility. TCS is being applied on that. So if a seller, or if it is a person who is paying something or receiving something from other person, for example, in this case, the government is giving a tender, earning, then it is put on the government that you ensure to collect the TCS as soon as you are, giving a person a chance to earn income in future, or you're giving a business opportunity to a person. Let's say a person who is giving a liquor tender. Okay. So all the items which are forming large tax evasion or black money kind of a thing in the informal economy, but given the under the net of the TCS, and the responsibility is put on the person who is the bigger person, who is the larger person. Now, why it is called TCS, collection at source? Because it is applicable on the seller. Seller is the one who is selling the goods and earning something. When he earns something, when he collects the money, when he collects the consideration, then he is required to collect some additional amount in the nature of tax, which is called TCS. So whenever there's a confusion between TDS and TCS, always remember TDS is deduction when there is a payee. TCS is when there's a collection, then there is an additional collection of the sold. So if you have sold goods for, let's say, 100 rupees, TCS is applicable, and it says that recover 1 more rupees. So then you have to recover 101 rupee. Okay, that is TCS. Interestingly, in case of TDS, what's happening when you are paying something to a person? Let's say you have hired a chartered accountant for a service of 10,000 rupees. It says that under section 194J, you have to deduct TDS at 10%. You will deduct 10% out of this 10,000, which is 1,000 rupees, and deposit to the government. That 10,000, which is earned by the chartered accountant, is itself its income. And whenever he'll file a return of income, he'll show his income as 10,000, his claim his expenditures, and then claim the TDS as the tax payment by him, 1,000 rupees. In case of TCS, it's kind of preponement. Okay, you have sold goods to someone at 100 rupees, you have collected 1 rupee of the TCS. Now, as of now, there is no income to the buyer, but you collect the TCS at 1 rupees and you deposit to the government in the name of the buyer, with the hope that the goods bought by this person will ultimately be used for these business activities, and he would be earning in future by selling those goods which I have sold to him. And then he would be definitely earning something, and that's why I've just deducted or collected the TCS and deposit to the government, and he can claim it whenever he earns income. So these are the basic premises of the TCS that I want you to make it clear. That TCS is a collection at source. TCS happens at first level. Income generation activity happens later on, but you have a faith, you have a hope that the person would be earning something out of it. TCS is applicable when the person who is buying it will actually use it for the business purposes. So you are giving a person the measure to earn, the measure to do the business. Business करने का जरिया आप किसी को अगर दे रहे हो, then TCS is applicable. We'll deal all these sections in detail also, just the introduction. Now, it was introduced in 1988, and like I mentioned, the purpose of the TCS when it was introduced was completely different. At that time, they wanted to curb black money. The constitutional validity of the section was also challenged before the Supreme Court. Now, wanted to just take a pause and just tell you what is constitutional validity of the section so that you are aware. In India, all the powers to the government to form or prepare a law are generated out of the Constitution of India. The Constitution of India provides various kind of law and provisions and articles which says that there are 3 kind of list available, and state governments and central governments are given the power to prepare any law under the parliament, and you can prepare any law under the Income Tax Act, giving specific reason that there should be a charge on the income, and there cannot be any recovery of the taxes without any authority of law. This is said by the Constitution of India. And there should be an authority provided in the Income Tax Act to collect any kind of taxes. So the constitutional validity of TCS was challenged, that there is no income per se at the time of making a payment or receiving a payment on account of sale of goods. Then how can there be a collection of tax when the income itself is not there in TCS? But the government fought the case before the Supreme Court. The judgment name was UAI, Union of India versus Sannyasi Rao, and the government said that these are the black money kind of corruption kind of cases wherein the margin is somewhere around 60%, 100%, 200% in all those cases of parking lots, mining of coal and etc. And that's why government fought the case and the Supreme Court allowed it, and the Supreme Court affirmed the validity of the case. However, if you look at today, the purpose of the TCS is slightly different. Now, all kind of normal taxes wherein you can't say there is actually any kind of evasion of the taxes, because right now everything is digital and you can't say that the person who is dealing in these cases is a mafia. Now all are well reputed and established organizations are dealing with all these cases. So you can't say it, but the provisions of TCS are still continuing. So the purpose for which the TCS was introduced and the purpose for which it is used right now are completely different. This is the introduction of the TCS. Now coming to the outline, how does it work? So like I mentioned to you, seller collects it additionally from the buyer and pays to the government. There's a collection over and above whatever is the normal collection under the course of business. A payment of the tax by the person from whom collection is made. Now, if let's say person A has sold some goods to person B and he has collected 1 rupee as TCS, there should be some legal provision justifying that who will take a credit of this 1 rupee. In Income Tax Act, nothing can happen without the authority of law. So there is a section specifically mentioned, which is section 206C, subsection 4, which clearly says that whoever has received the payment will deposit this, and the collection is made out of the money which is paid to a person. The credit will be given to the same person from whom the collection is made. So the credit can be given to the person who has actually paid the money. And under the authority of 206C4 only that person can claim it. For claiming, there are rules provided which says that whoever is collecting it needs to do some compliances. Compliances are he'll collect it, he'll deposit to the government within the given due date, like we do for TDS and TCS. He'll file a TCS statement. We generally call it a TCS return. As soon as we file a TCS return, there is a digital measure available. This will appear in the PAN number or TAN number of the collectee from whom the collection is made. This is appear in his 26AS or the AIS. Whenever the person files a return, he'll claim it in his income tax return. And that is the entire chain or modus operandi of TCS. Any questions anyone have on the core structure of the TCS? Please share your views.
Yeah, Ankit, you have in detail explained so far why there are various provisions related to TDS as well as the digital payments, SFT, Aadhaar, PAN card, etc.
Yes.
And also introduce the provisions related to the TCS. So here basically I would like to mention you that there are a lot of preparedness which has been done by the students speaker also. So considering that, I would request you that so far as that detailed discussion on various sections are concerned, that may be in brief by you, and then speakers will take it in detail by them. So that is one submission which I thought I should request you.
Yes. I've attended the Saturday classes. I've kept in that way. My flow would be that whatever are those topics which require some kind of inputs from a professional side, I'll give it to you, like the introduction and the genesis, and whatever the sections or the penal provisions, I'll be briefly touching upon, and then speakers would take their time to explain in detail. Yeah.
And we would request you to stay till the end of the class, depending on availability of your time. And of course, you can support them wherever they are missing any discussion.
Yes, sir. Yes. My pleasure. So I'll be covering few of the major TCS provisions in detail, and I've kept it on the basis of relevance as of in measure of the clients, what is the most relevant TCS provisions, and then we'll discuss those which are applicable in force as of now, but not used in a day-to-day basis. The very first, in my view, is TCS on sale of goods. When it was introduced in 2020, there was very big hue and cry in the industry and in the among the consultant also, that how people are going to apply TCS on sale of goods, because sale of goods is such a vast kind of transaction. Every entity has lakhs and lakhs of the transactions on a daily basis, and they need to apply the TCS on sale of goods. So the department came up with this, and the intention was again very clear. This was the one transaction which was not reported anywhere. All the kind of incomes and etc. were reported. However, the general sale and purchase was not reported. And GST was introduced 3 years back. There were the cases of fake invoicing and etc. Department wanted to know what kind of turnover a person has, and so that they can justify, they can analyze as to what kind of income a person would be declaring in this income tax return. So with that reason, the TCS on sale of goods was introduced. What is the basic provision of TCS on sale of goods is, there is a section 206C subsection 1H, which provides that there would be a collection
Ankit,
of tax at source.
Ankit,
Yes.
Ankit, I think the detailed provisions students will be covering, so you can just skip.
Yes. Yeah, allow me 10-15 minutes open, sir. No problem.
I'll
cover it. Yeah, I'll cover it. I have kept in that one.
Yeah.
So the provision in 206C1H clearly says that collection of tax at source on sale of goods. So all kind of sale of goods were put under the ambit of TCS, and all the person who has a turnover more than 10 crore as a seller were under the ambit of the TCS, and all the transactions between a buyer and a seller which has a turnover more than 50 lakh were under the ambit of TCS on sale of goods. This provision was made applicable in 2020. However, what happened was that, as you all know, complying with TDS provisions is much easier than complying with the TCS provisions. Because of that, government came up with this interim measure of TCS and sale of goods. But in the next budget, which is 2021, the government came up with the TDS on the same provision, which is TDS on sale of goods, purchase of goods. And as of now, when you look at the income tax side, there are two kind of provisions which are applicable, which is TDS on purchase of goods and TCS on sale of goods. And both are simultaneously applicable. So as of now, the biggest concern or biggest discussion among the consultant is what kind of provision should apply on single kind of a transaction. For which, what is relevant and required from all the consultants and you is check conditions provided under both the law, which is TDS under section 194Q and TCS under 206C. Identify what kind of section is applicable, and then you see whether this is applicable, TCS is applicable, or TDS is applicable. For your benefit, let's first refer this table, which I'm sure speakers would be covering. Just I'm touching base upon it so that you guys understand that what will be applicable. First of all, as a basic principle, always remember, in Income Tax Act, the first priority is always given to TDS. And hence, if TDS is applicable under any specific section, TCS shall not apply. And that is the reason when 206C was introduced, government has said that TCS will not apply if buyer is liable to deduct TDS under any other provisions of the Act. It says that if, let's say, you are selling goods to a person and the buyer who is buying the goods from you is liable to deduct TDS under any other provisions, then TCS shall not apply. This would have been a very simple kind of a thing, because you could have checked under section 194Q whether your buyer is actually liable to deduct TDS. The same conditions are available there also. And you could have applied that if, let's say, buyer's turnover is less than 10 crore, he would not be required to deduct TDS and I'll collect the TCS. However, government has provided two conditions which must be satisfied for the exemption, which says and actually has deducted TDS. And this is the thing which is a very practically cumbersome to apply. It immediately shifts the liability of TDS to TCS if there is a default from the buyer side. So you kind of are penalized by way of an additional process if there is a default from the buyer side. So even if TDS is applicable, even if he is required to deduct under TDS, even if the assessing default proceedings would be liable or launched on the buyer, but because of any reason he has not actually deducted TDS, seller is required to collect TCS. So it is very important to do the KYC of your customers. to understand, to have the contact numbers, PAN numbers, Gmail ID, and etc. of those customers. Check on a periodic manner whether they are deducting TDS or not. If they are not deducting TDS, then you apply TCS. And when you apply TCS, is there any delay? Then you would be liable to pay interest also. So that is the thrust that the government has created, that two provisions are simultaneously being applicable on the single transaction. One person, if not able to do the compliance, then the other person automatically comes into the picture. And hence, by way of structure of the transaction, the government has ensured that you comply with TCS and TCS provisions. These are all scenarios which
So
you can
here-
refer. Yeah.
Here basic concept of like that whose income is this is nowhere, because TDS is being deducted by the payer where income is of actually the actually is of the seller, in fact.
Yes.
So, but and in TCS concept is actually reverse. But
Yes,
so
yes.
therefore these provisions are basically to actually cover these type of transactions or to cover the high value transactions, either by way of TDS or by way of TCS. Whose income is there
Correct.
doesn't matter.
Correct. There should be a trail which is reported to the government. That is the intention of the
Correct.
government. If you look at the rate
Yeah,
also, it is 0.1%. 0.1% is
True.
nothing minuscule. Government is not earning anything. They just want a trail of the transaction. That's it. But as you all know, when department comes up with kind of an introduction of the sections, they do not look at the practical problems because they kind of have a faith on the chartered accountants that they will apply these provisions in a letter and spirit manner. And that is the reason probably government did not done away with the TCS, and they are still continuing with the TDS and TCS both. Okay.
Yeah.
So my input would be to all of you, read the two sections conjointly. There are circulars being provided. I'll touch upon that also. What kind of circulars? I'll just give you the names of that. See those circulars, apply your mind and see what kind of section is applicable, and do read the law in a very careful manner. Some people have missed reading these 4 or 5 words which are hidden into the language of the section and has actually deducted TDS, and that can result into non-compliance on the person. Okay. This is the TDS and TCS. Now, coming to the another major provision, just will touch upon the concerns which are being raised in the sale of scrap TCS. You guys would be aware what kind of scrap is liable to TCS. TCS rate is over there, and the law is provided over there. I'll touch upon the concern which is generally faced or the litigation which is there in the TCS on sale of scrap. Now, whenever you're applying any provision of Income Tax Act, always read the words very carefully. When the section is applicable on scrap, the definition of scrap under section 206C explanation 1 is provided, which says any waste and scrap. The moment you go to the complete explanation, read carefully. The waste word is introduced into the explanation. The waste word is not there in the heading of the section or the general discussion that you would find on the internet. The waste is available in the explanation, and the end is over there. And you know the end and or are very much different in Income Tax Act. So hence, you read it conjointly. It should be a waste and a scrap together from manufacturing, which is definitely not usable. So whenever you're applying this section, always read the conditions. These should be satisfied. Then only TCS under scrap shall be applicable. For example, let's say you are doing audit of Birla Cement, let's say there are gunny bags and cartons, etc., which are being there, and then those are being thrown out and sold as a scrap. Can you say TCS under section 206C or scrap is applicable? In my view, you have to first see whether it is a waste. Waste is it is not usable as such. It cannot be used as such until some process is applied on it. First thing. Second, whether it is generated out of manufacturing process. Manufacturing process is raw material converted into finished goods. Out of this, there should be something manufactured out of it. If it is manufactured from the manufacturing process, then it is scrap, and it is definitely not usable. So let's say there is a machine which was used for the purpose of manufacturing, but the machine is sold now like a scrap. Is TCS applicable? Not applicable, because machinery was used for the manufacture, but machinery is not generated out of the manufacturing process. Understood? Let's say if there is a ship wreckage, there is a big ship, a person has bought the ship, he has cut the ship, and there are certain leftovers which are left over there. Is TCS applicable? You can say that whatever the cut products are there, whatever the removed products are there, those are as such usable because the parts are being sold in the normal market, and those are usable as such. You can buy it and you can put it in or your own shape in or your small vehicle, etc. So then it is not definitely not usable. So hence scrap, even if it is a scrap in your common parlance, but 206C explanation will bar applicability of TCS on this section. So I prepared this chart. You can refer your explanation and you can see. First condition is whether it is generated out of manufacturing process. If no, goes out of it. If yes, see whether it is usable as such without any change in the nature. If no, TCS applicable. If yes, goes out the TDS provisions. Any queries? Anyone? Moving ahead then. So this is the TDS, TCS on scrap. Just saying, if always remember, this is a specific section of TCS on sale of scrap. If it is not a scrap, then check whether it's a goods under section 2061H, which is your sale of goods. If it goes out of scrap definition because of non-usability, but if it is a goods, then 1H shall apply because it remains to be a goods only. So one section goes out of, other section comes into the picture. When you read one section, always ensure to read the entire law so that you can do the correct compliances. Do not read the law in hurriedly manner. Okay. Coming to the next important part, which is TCS on foreign remittances. Again, reason is to control the money sent abroad. You would have seen many people who do not file income tax return in India, but have their children really studying in abroad or making expenditures or trips to abroad and making expenditures in cash mode by converting the cash into the foreign currency. Government wanted to curb those kind of cases, and they've applied TCS on the payment being sent under the LRS scheme. Now, the rate is right now in budget increased to 20%, which is very high. The government understands that whoever is sending this money is definitely earning good in India, and that's why they have increased the rate to a 20%. For educational medical purposes, the rate is 5%, and for educational loan, it is 0.5% because the government wants a reporting. So all kind of foreign remittances are liable to TCS. Important here for you to understand, when you read income tax law, also read the FEMA and SEBI provisions. What kind of FEMA and RBI provisions, my bad, because RBI provisions are very much relevant when you are dealing with the income tax act of the transition of between two countries. And here it is important that TCS is applicable on the money being remitted under the LRS scheme. What is LRS scheme? LRS is liberalized remittance scheme by RBI. RBI has allowed remittance of certain money out of India without any approval. Generally, when you send money out of India, you need to get specific approval from RBI. RBI said that there are certain requirements. For example, you are going out of India, you're giving gifts, your children are studying outside India, there is a medical emergency, tourist and travel purpose, etc. All these are white list, which are provided by the RBI. White list means if this is a purpose, there is a limit of $250,000, which is around 85 lakhs. You can send this money out of India easily without any approval. And since you can send this money without any approval easily manner, TCS comes into the picture as a control mechanism. So whenever there's a money being sent out of India, do ensure to check the TCS compliances. Do ensure to check with your client, whoever you are dealing with, that whether TCS has been applicable in the correct way or the correct rate. And also do ensure to read the SEBI's RBI circular on the LRS scheme, because it is a very much relevant scheme when you do the audits of various MNCs or international clients. So this is what I wanted to touch upon under the TDS on foreign remittances, which is the mainly LRS scheme. Any questions anyone have? Please unmute yourself. Let me know. Okay. Now, other things which are sale of parking toll, parking lot, toll plaza, mining, and also the alcoholic liquor and tendu leaves. General provisions may not be applicable on a day-to-day basis. Only one thing I wanted to highlight so that you remember every time. 206C is very specific section wherein the collector always changes. Okay. In general sections of TDS, what a company who is paying TDS or a firm who is liable to audit or individual or HO who is liable to audit are required to do the TDS deduction. 206C is very different in it. Every subsection of 206C changes the definition of the collector. For example, if there is a sale of motor vehicle, even if an individual is selling it, he is required to do the compliance of TCS. For example, parking lot, toll plaza, every person who is granted a license for the transfer is required to collect it. So buyer and seller definition in all the different subsections of the 206C are very much important. So see here, individual HF, even if audit is not applicable, but if this person grants license for the parking lot, toll plaza and mining and quarrying, even if that is applicable. So even if my Ankit in my individual capacity grant this kind of a license, then TCS is applicable. And probably this is very unique in the entire Income Tax Act. All other cases, until unless audit is there, TCS fees are not applicable. So have a thrust on the definition of the collector, buyer and seller under section 206C whenever you are reading this section. Very much important for you. And there are multiple judgments available which focuses and harps upon the fact that who is the collector, who is the buyer. Okay. Motor vehicle also that I've covered the same thing only. One important interplay that I wanted to highlight again. If it is a motor vehicle, TCS is applicable in this section. If it is not a motor vehicle, for example, let's say vehicle price is low, less than 10 lakh rupees, then TCS is not applicable. Read the entire law. If it is not a motor vehicle because of getting out of the threshold of 10 lakh rupees, it becomes a goods under section 206C1H because the person is selling you. So it goes out of TCS on sale of motor vehicle, but it gets covered under the TCS on sale of goods. So one section goes out of it, the other section enters into it, and the compliance is being done under one of these sections. So always see the interplay of 1F and 1H. Okay, for example, let's say you have bought 8 cars in a year, which are amounting to 9 lakh rupees per car out of the TCS on motor vehicles. But since the total consideration is more than 50 lakh rupees, TCS under the normal provisions. Coming to the compliances and all, probably very general points and etc. which can be covered over here. Just wanted to highlight one thing to you that in case of TCS, there is a very unique kind of thing which few people are not aware and few people miss out is in case of TDS and TCS, what we generally do when we prepare TDS and TCS statements are we get the data out of Tally or any ERP that we are using and we report it to the department. No, there are sections which says that you have to report the non-collection of TCS as well. And all you are aware, clause 34 of the tax audit as well, which has the specific column wherein TCS was liable to be deducted but not actually deducted. The same way TCS was liable to be collected but not actually collected. And the nature of the transactions on which the TCS and TDS are applicable. So you conjointly read that provision of tax audit with your TCS payment statement and do ensure that all the transactions which are highlighted over here, you can read the law. There are long list of transactions wherein TCS is not applicable, but you have to still report those transactions into the TCS return or TCS statement, which is a very unique thing. Whenever AD banker is there or whenever, because of the TDS under 184, you are not collecting it, then this gets applicable. So these are very minute things, but what I'm highlighting to you, other things can be, read by anyone when he reads the law. My inputs again would be read the entire law, read entire sections, check the rules, check what kind of compliances are required before suggesting anything to the client, before suggesting anything to a person to do the compliances. Okay. Coming to the credit of TCS, I've highlighted you guys what is the credit mechanism of the TCS. One thing I wanted to highlight, which is unique kind of a thing, which is you should always be aware of. Credit of TCS we generally understand is that the one person has deducted the TDS, I do the accounting, I get the TCS certificate and I get the credit. Actually, it is wrong. In the law itself, they have provided 3 conditions which should be satisfied cumulatively, which says it should be appearing in a form 26AS. Means he has collected it and also deposited it to the government. Then only you can collect it. So you have to ask that person that please revise your 26 years, then only I'll get the credit. It should be reported in the ITR filed by the receiver. If you know the concept of LBW in cricket, until there is an appeal, there can be a chance that the umpire does not give out. The same thing is here also. You have to claim that amount in your ITR. If you miss claiming this amount in your ITR, then you can't claim the credit of TCS. That is important thing. This is a underlying condition. And third condition, which is very unique, which is it is subject to the RMS of the CBDT. RMS is risk management strategy. Very important. Recently, the new provisions of section 148 were introduced of the reassessment. There also government has said that we'll identify the regions basis RMS. Do read and do ensure that are you as a consultant ahead of the government? Are you aware of all these things which are being used by the government to do the scrutiny, to give the credit of TCS? Algorithm, machine learning, technological tool, artificial intelligence, examination of information, like I discussed in the initial time. RMS, basis RMS, government can disallow credit of TCS. And once you get a notice of it, you have to prepare yourself in that manner only. So this is the important point that I want to highlight of the credit of TCS, that ensure 26AS is appearing 26AS, ITR is filed and it is covered under the RMS. It is cleared under the RMS. Failure to collect TCS, nothing specific to highlight. Very stringent provisions, interest is applicable, penalty is applicable, prosecution is also applicable. Recently, there was a case wherein the Bombay High Court prosecuted one of the famous movie maker on account of delay in deduction of TDS. He actually deducted the TDS, but at a later point he deducted the TDS, and prosecution proceedings were launched even in case of delay in deduction of TDS. So never take TDS and TCS provisions lightly, because the person who is hearing the case generally does not happen before the income tax appellate tribunal, the prosecution cases. These cases happen before the magistrate. Magistrates are not well versed with the Income Tax Act. They look at the numbers. When someone will say there was a payment of 25 crore rupees and TDS at 0.1% was not collected, the magistrate will think that there is a fraud of 25 crore rupees. And they will go literally by the interpretation of the law only. And that is the reason there are frequent cases of the prosecution under the Income Tax Act. So do ensure that TCS both are liable under the prosecution proceedings. Read the prosecution provisions carefully. See whether the thresholds, whether the rules provided by the government are covering it under the prosecution. Make it reasonable cause. Make it like that the penalty and as well as the prosecution can be saved whenever you're doing the TDS TCS compliances. Ask everyone not to take TDS and TCS provisions lightly. There is no kind of a tax outgo, but prosecution can still be applicable. Understood? So hence my view on penal provisions would be take these things seriously, because there are multiple and increased chances of prosecution under TCS on account of general concerns also. So this is the broad outline and the key concerns which can arise out of the simplest kind of provisions, which are TCS only on basis the language of the law. It is under Income Tax Act. Now just touching base upon the TCS mechanism under GST also. Government knows that TDS TCS are successful measures. They wanted to apply the same thing into the GST as well, because they know that they can do the good compliances by using it. And hence TCS under GST was made applicable on very specific transaction. But like I say, as of now, this is one transaction in GST. In coming future, you will see multiple transactions covered under TCS and TDS under GST as well. I was hearing to one speaker on a point, and he said that TDS and TCS provisions has Dodo now Puto follow Ashirwad from Finance Ministry and Nirmala Sitharaman, that every year another kid or child arrives in the TDS and TCS provisions. So we'll see these provisions keep on increasing and having the widening of the scope. So in TCS under GST, it is applicable on the e-commerce operator. What happens in e-commerce operator? Let me explain to you. There are three parties are involved. When you place an order on Amazon, Amazon is just a mediator. Amazon takes an order from you, passes the order to the supplier. Supplier supplies the goods to you through Amazon mechanism. The buyer pays this money to the Amazon. And it may so happen that the supplier is not compliant person. Okay. But right now there is a thrust on the e-commerce. Most of the transactions happen on the basis of modern trade and e-commerce only. Government has put forth this small TCS provision, which says that whenever Amazon is actually getting the consideration from the buyer and paying it back to the supplier, they will collect TCS. It is kind of a deduction out of the payment made to the supplier, but it is called TCS because they are doing the collection from the buyer on the money which is on account of the orders placed by the buyer. And this is exactly same. It is considered as the GST only. The rate is 1%. So if there is IGST, then 1% is applicable. If this is CGST, SGST is applicable, it is interested supply, then 0.5%, 0.5% each only. Important point to note here is the credit of this tax would be given to the supplier in the electronic cash ledger. The benefit of giving into the electronic cash ledger is it is considered as a cash payment by the supplier. And if once it is considered as a cash payment, there are multiple benefits available to the supplier. For example, he can claim a refund under Section 54 of the CGST Act. He can utilize this cash for any kind of liability payment. So there is a good kind of options provided to the supplier if there is a TCS being collected on the payment made to him by the e-commerce operators. Again, my honest submission would be read the law correctly. E-commerce does not actually mean Amazon, eBay only. If let's say you have a subsidiary, your client has a subsidiary and the holding company are interacting on a kind of a website, internal website, or there's internal telephonic orders and etc. Also do check, anything can be applicable in that case also. So do check all the provisions whenever you are doing the compliances. This is the TCS under the GST provisions. Just wanted to highlight what kind of rules you can refer. Section 206C is there. There are rules available, which is 31AA and the series, which is on account of filing of the return. Then there are rule 37 and there are various rules which are time, mode, and payment of the TCS. Multiple circulars, notifications, and press release have been given by the department only on account of TCS. You can understand the complications. Circular number 17 is interplay of 194O versus 206C. Circular 13 is there for 194 QNC. Circular 20 is there for QNC. There's a press release by the Finance Ministry on account of the general concerns raised by the department. There is a notification 54 provided, which provides the procedure to file the statement. Take a note of it, take a screenshot. I'll circulate this also. But whenever you are doing any kind of review of the TCS compliances, do also check the circulars and FAQs. Do not just go by reading of the law. This is my entire presentation. I wanted to keep it crisp only, and I wanted to highlight whatever things are there which require over and over efforts when you are reading income tax law. Taking a pause here and giving you time if you want to ask anything, just giving 1 minute. Okay. Bhupen sir, please let me know if any queries there, or you think that I may have gone fast a little and may not have covered any point in detail.
No, not an issue. I just wanted to confirm whether you are available for the another 1 hour or what is the case.
Yes, I would be available for time, Bhupen sir. I would be attending the seminar.
Okay, not an issue. So basically, in fact, I'm happy that the way you have presented, and even being in the industry, you are actually updated with all of the latest laws which are there. So that is really, I should actually give you the compliments for that. And I can feel that, of course, you must have presented 3 or 4 times in the Saturday class over here. Again, I feel that you really justified your today's role as a keynote speaker, and very well explained the provisions of TCS under income tax law as well as the GST. Yeah, so it was really a good interaction with you. Of course, some of the queries may be there, but considering the time constant also, because speakers are also there today who have almost done the detailed, who have actually have the detailed presentations. So I would request speakers to please take your presentations, and then we can go for the query and answer session.
So let's start our presentation on TCS, that is tax collected at source. Concept of TCS. As Ankit sir discussed, TCS is a tax collected by seller from buyer on specified goods at a specified rate. अब specified goods कौन से होते हैं जो अपन पढ़ेंगे आगे 206 के प्रोविजन के अंदर कि कौन से गुड स्पेसिफाई है जिसके अंदर सेलर लायबल होगा बायर से TCS कलेक्ट करने के लिए, और डेट्स भी अपन आगे पढ़ेंगे. Section 260, subsection 1, that is sale of alcohol, candle leaves, timber, minerals. ये सेक्शन ये बोलता है कि सेलर कलेक्ट करेगा बायर से एट अ स्पेसिफाइड रेट ऑन परचेज वैल्यू स्पेसिफाइड गुड्स और टैक्स कलेक्ट करेगा एट द टाइम ऑफ डेबिटिंग द अमाउंट पेबल बाय द बायर टू द अकाउंट ऑफ द बायर और एट द टाइम ऑफ रिसिप्ट ऑफ सच अमाउंट फ्रॉम द बायर इन कैश और बाय एनी अदर मोड व्हिचएवर इज अर्लियर। अब 260 सबसेक्शन 1 के अंदर कौन से गुड्स है जो जिसके अंदर सेलर लायबल है पीसेस कलेक्ट करने के लिए बायर से उसकी रेट्स क्या है। यहाँ पे 7 गुड्स है जिसके अंदर सेलर पीसेस कलेक्ट करेगा। फर्स्ट इज अल्कोहलिक लिकर फॉर ह्यूमन कंजम्पशन, इसके अंदर रेट ऑफ पीसेस है 1%, कैंडल लीव्स रेट ऑफ पीसेस है 5%, टिम्बर ऑब्टेन अंडर अ फॉरेस्ट लीज रेट ऑफ पीसेस है 2.5%, टिम्बर ऑब्टेन बाय एनी अदर मोड other than under a forest lease, if the rate of pieces is 2.5%. Any other forest produce not being timber or tangle leaf, if the rate of pieces is 2.5%. Scrap, if the rate of pieces is 1%. Minerals being coal or lignite or iron ore, इसके अंदर rate of pieces है 1%. अब कौन कौन से सेलर यहाँ पे लायबल होंगे पीसेस कलेक्ट करने के लिए। पर पहला सबसे पहले जो स्पेसिफाइड गुड को सेल करेगा उसको पीसेस कलेक्ट करना है। अब उसके अंदर आ रहा है सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, any local authority corporation, any authority established by or under a central state or provincial act, कोई कंपनी, कोई फर्म, कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी या फिर इंडिविजुअल एचओ को टैक्स ऑडिट करने के लिए लायबल है। मतलब कि इंडिविजुअल एचओ को टैक्स ऑडिट के अंदर नहीं आ रहे तो वो यहाँ पे टीसेस कलेक्ट नहीं करेंगे, सिर्फ जो टैक्स ऑडिट वाले वही टीसेस कलेक्ट करेंगे। अब किससे टीसेस कलेक्ट करेंगे बायर? सबसे पहले पर्सन को स्पेसिफाइड गुड्स परचेज करने होंगे, लेकिन वो पब्लिक सेक्टर कंपनी नहीं होना चाहिए, सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट नहीं होना चाहिए, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट नहीं होना चाहिए, एंड एन एम्बेसी, अ हाई कमीशन, अ लीगेशन, अ कमीशन, अ कंसुलेट एंड द ट्रेड रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ अ फॉरेन स्टेट एंड अ क्लब, अ बायर इन द रिटेल सेल ऑफ सच गुड्स परचेज बाय हिम फॉर पर्सनल कंजम्पशन। अगर बायर ये स्पेसिफाइड गुड्स को अपने खुद के कंजम्पशन के लिए परचेज कर रहा है तो यहाँ पे वो टीसेस उससे टीसेस कलेक्ट नहीं किया जाएगा, उसको एग्जाम किया। अब कौन कौन से एग्जाम्पशन है सेक्शन 260 सबसेक्शन 1 के अंदर। पहला, अगर बायर परचेज कर रहा है स्पेसिफाइड गुड्स को अपने पर्सनल कंजम्पशन के लिए तब। सेकंड, अगर बायर परचेज कर रहा है स्पेसिफाइड गुड्स को मैन्युफैक्चरिंग के लिए, प्रोसेसिंग के लिए, प्रोडक्शन के लिए, इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ ट्रेडिंग मतलब ट्रेडिंग के अलावा अगर वो इन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्रोडक्शन के लिए यूज कर रहा है उस गुड्स को तो यहाँ पे उसके टीसेस कलेक्ट नहीं किया जाएगा। अगर वो यूज कर रहा है इन स्पेसिफाइड गुड्स को ट्रांजेक्शन फॉर रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी एंड इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, फिर टीसेस यहाँ पे उससे कलेक्ट नहीं किया जाएगा। नेक्स्ट सेक्शन इज सेक्शन 260 सबसेक्शन 1C, दैट इज टीसेस ऑन पार्किंग, टोल प्लाजा, माइनिंग एंड क्वेरिंग। ये सेक्शन ये बोलता है कि कोई भी पर्सन जो कि सेलर है अगर वो लीज पे, लाइसेंस या फिर किसी भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट के अंदर एंटर कर रहा है और राइट ट्रांसफर कर रहा है पार्किंग लॉट की, टोल प्लाजा की, माइन या फिर क्वेरिंग की किसी दूसरे पर्सन को, और उस अगर वो दूसरा पर्सन उसको यूज कर रहा है बिजनेस पर्पज के लिए तो यहाँ पे उससे टीसेस कलेक्ट किया जाएगा। लेकिन माइनिंग एंड क्वेरिंग ऑफ मिनरल ऑयल, पेट्रोलियम, नेचुरल गैस यहाँ पे कवर नहीं होंगे, उसको एग्जाम किया गया। The provision of this section shall not apply if the licensee or lessee is a public sector company. तो buyer यहाँ पे public sector company नहीं होना चाहिए, उस पे applicable नहीं है। Tax has to be collected by the seller at the time of debiting the amount payable by the licensee or lessee to the account of the licensee or lessee, or at the time or receipt of such amount from the licensee or lessee in cash or by the issue of check, draft, or by any other mode, whichever is earlier. Individual age of even his turnover does not exceed rupees 1 crore or 50 lakhs, as the case may be, are also liable to collect टीसेस। यहाँ पे सेलर को कोई एग्जम्पशन नहीं मिली है, मतलब कि इन केस इंडिविजुअल एज ऑफ अगर टैक्स ऑडिट के अंदर नहीं भी आ रहे फिर भी वो यहाँ पे कलेक्ट करेंगे टीसीएस, यहाँ पे वो लायबल है टीसीएस कलेक्ट करने के लिए। फॉर द पर्पज ऑफ सेक्शन 260 सबसेक्शन 1C on parking lot, toll plazas or mining or quarrying, every person as defined under section 231 of the income tax should collect टीसेस। यहाँ पर से बोला कि हर एक पर्सन जो कि डिफाइन है 231 ऑफ द इनकम टैक्स के अंदर उसको टीसीएस पे करना पड़ेगा। अब पर्सन की डेफिनेशन अंडर सेक्शन 231 ऑफ इनकम टैक्स के अंदर दे रखी है कि पर्सन इंक्लूड्स एन इंडिविजुअल, एचयूएफ, अ कंपनी, अ फर्म, an association of persons or body of individuals, whether incorporated or not, a local authority, every artificial judicial person not falling within any of the preceding subclauses, AOP, BOI or local authority or artificial judicial person shall be deemed to be a person whether or not such persons are formed or established or incorporated with the object of deriving profit or income. तो यहाँ पे जिन पर्सन को स्पेसिफाई कर रहा था वही पर्सन लायबल है सेक्शन 260 सबसेक्शन 1C के अंदर टीसीएस कलेक्ट करने के लिए. Shri Jagannath Temple Office is not a person under section 231, thus not liable to collect TCS under section 260 subsection 1C. श्री जगन्नाथ टेम्पल मैनेजिंग कमेटी वैसे ACIT का जो केस था उसके अंदर डिक्लेयर हुआ था, सिंस श्री जगन्नाथ टेम्पल ऑफिस एक पर्सन के डेफिनेशन के अंदर नहीं तो होता तो यहाँ पे वो टीसीएस कलेक्ट नहीं करेगा, वो लायबल नहीं होगा यहाँ पे टीसीएस कलेक्ट करने के लिए. एप्लीकेबिलिटी एंड रेट्स क्या है? पार्किंग लॉट की रेट है 2%, टोल प्लाजा की 2%, माइनिंग एंड क्वेरिंग की 2%. Section 260 subsection 1F, that is TCS on sale of motor vehicle. ये सेक्शन ये बोलता है अगर एक पर्सन जो भी सेलर है अगर वो कोई भी मोटर व्हीकल जिसकी वैल्यू एक्सीड कर रही है 10 लाख रुपीस या फिर उससे ज्यादा तो फिर वो टीसीएस कलेक्ट करेगा एट द रेट ऑफ 2% ऑफ द सेल कंसिडरेशन. टीसीएस शैल बी कलेक्टेड एट द टाइम ऑफ रिसीप्ट ऑफ द अमाउंट फ्रॉम द बायर. 1% पे यहाँ पे टीसीएस कलेक्ट किया जाएगा. टीसीएस और अब एक और चीज यहाँ पे देख इम्पोर्टेंट है, अगर मैन्युफैक्चरर डीलर या फिर डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर को टीसीएस मतलब मोटर व्हीकल सेल कर रहा है तो इवन इफ अगर उसकी वैल्यू 10 लाख से एक्सीड कर रही है तो वो यहाँ पे कवर नहीं होगा, मतलब जो डिटेल सेल है वही यहाँ पे कवर होगा. टीसीएस अगर मोटर बाइक से सेकंड हैंड कार से उस पर एप्लीकेबल होगा अगर उसकी वैल्यू एक्सीड कर रही है ₹10 लाख. TCS on the motor vehicle to be collected at the time of receipt of retail sale and not on the sale of motor vehicle by manufacturers or dealers. ये CBDT circular number 22/2016 के अंदर dated 8 June 2016. अब बायर की डेफिनेशन के अंदर कौन कौन आते हैं अंडर सेक्शन 260 सबसेक्शन 1 है. यहाँ पे बायर मतलब बायर ऑफ अ मोटर व्हीकल जिसकी वैल्यू करिए 10 लाख रुपीस, बट यहाँ पे टीसीएस एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा. सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट एंड एम्बेसी, अ हाई कमीशन, डिवीजन, commission, consulate, and the trade representation of a foreign state, a local authority, a public sector company that is engaged in the business of carrying passengers. तो इन तीनों पे यहाँ पे टीसीएस एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा. बाकी सारे जिसकी वैल्यू एक्सीड करे 10 लाख रुपीज अगर मोटर व्हीकल तो वो सेलर लायबल होगा उसको कलेक्ट करने के लिए टीसीएस. यहाँ पे सेलर की डेफिनेशन के अंदर आ रहा है सेलर मीन सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट or any local authority, corporation, authority established by or under a central, state, or provincial act, any company, firm or cooperative society liable है. तो यहाँ पे भी इंडिविजुअल एचओ को टैक्स के लायबल नहीं है, वो यहाँ पे गवर्नमेंट वो लायबल नहीं होंगे यहाँ पे टीसीएस कलेक्ट करने के लिए. अब कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स हैं. whether TCS at the rate of 1% sale of motor vehicle is applicable only to luxury cars. No, as subsection 1F of the section 160 of the Act, the seller shall collect the tax at the rate of 1 from the purchaser on the sale of any motor vehicle of the value exceeding 10 lakh rupees. तो यहाँ पे लग्जरी कार्स है या नहीं ये नहीं देखेंगे, यहाँ पे मोटर व्हीकल की वैल्यू देखी जाएगी. अगर उसकी वैल्यू एक्सीड कर रही है 10 लाख रुपीज से तो यहाँ पे टीसीएस कलेक्ट होगा. whether TCS is applicable on each sale of motor vehicle or on aggregate value. तो अपन यहाँ पे TCS फाइनेंशियल जो वैल्यू 10 लाख रुपीज तो पूरे फाइनेंशियल ईयर के लिए या फिर ईच सेल देखा जाएगा. Taxes to be collected at source at the rate of 1% on sale consideration of the motor vehicle exceeding 10 lakh rupees. It is applicable to each cell and not to aggregate value of cell made during the year. तो हर एक सेल पे देखा जाएगा अगर उसकी वैल्यू एक्सीड कर रही है 10 लाख रुपीज तो अपन TCS कलेक्ट होगा, नहीं तो नहीं होगा. How would the provisions of TCS on sale of motor vehicle be applicable? In a case, the part of the payment is made in cash and part is made by check. The provision of TCS of motor vehicle exceeding 10 lakh rupees is not dependent on amount of payment. यहाँ पे अगर कैश पे थोड़ा चेक थोड़ा उस पर डिपेंड नहीं करेगा तो भी मोटर हो at the rate of 1%. अब एक एग्जांपल एक कंपनी है कारपेटो प्राइवेट लिमिटेड. एक पर्सन है जिसका नाम है मिस्टर क्वेश्चन मार्क, आप सब अपने आप को इमेजिन कर सकते हो. तो उसको वो कार परचेस करने आता है और उसकी वैल्यू ऑफ द कार है 20 लाख रुपीज. तो टीसीएस आएगा या नहीं आएगा? आएगा. टीसीएस कलेक्टेड इक्वल टू नहीं, यहाँ पे पर्सनल पर्पस का वो एक्सेप्शन नहीं है, ये दूसरा सेक्शन है। तो टीसीएस कलेक्ट होगा यहाँ पे 1% पर, दैट इज 1000 रुपीज। सेक्शन 260 सबसेक्शन 1C 1G टीसीएस ऑन फॉरेन रेमिटेंस। ये सेक्शन ये बोल रहा है अगर ऑथराइज्ड डीलर जैसे कि बैंक्स वगैरह, अगर वो उनको टीसीएस कलेक्ट करना पड़ेगा अगर कोई पर्सन, मतलब यहाँ पे पर्सन में सिर्फ इंडिविजुअल आ रहा है, तो अगर कोई इंडिविजुअल रेमिट कर रहा है 7 लाख या फिर उससे ज्यादा की अमाउंट आउट ऑफ इंडिया अंडर LRS स्कीम, लिबरलाइज्ड रेमिटेंस स्कीम के अंदर, तो ये यहाँ पे उसको टीसीएस कलेक्ट करना पड़ेगा उस इंडिविजुअल से। A seller of an overseas being the person who purchased such package shall be liable to seize it. अगर एक टूर प्रोग्राम परचेस कर रहा है इंडिया का रेसिडेंट और वहाँ इस पे सेलर टीसीएस कर सकती है, यहाँ पे 7 लाख की लिमिट सिर्फ ऊपर वाले के अंदर। अब लिबरलाइज्ड रेमिटेंस स्कीम क्या होती है? इस स्कीम के अंदर इंडियन पर्सन जो रेसिडेंट है एज पर सेमा परमिटेड है वो रेमिट कर सकता है अप टू $250,000 पर फाइनेंशियल ईयर outside India without approval of RBI for any permitted current account or capital account transaction or both, such as opening foreign currency account abroad, purchase of property or making investments abroad, private visit, gift donation, business trip, medical treatment, studies abroad, going abroad on employment, etc. This scheme is available only to individuals, including minors, and not to corporates, partnership firms, PHF, etc. अब इसके अंदर रेट ऑफ फीसेस क्या है? सेक्शन 260 सबसेक्शन 1G के अंदर अगर रेमिट कर रहे हैं अमाउंट 7 लाख या फिर उससे ज्यादा, तो अगर पैन अवेलेबल है तो 5%, इफ पैन नॉट अवेलेबल देन 10%। अगर एजुकेशन लोन के पर्पस के लिए वो रेमिट कर रहा है आउटसाइड इंडिया और इसकी वैल्यू एक्सीड कर रही है 7 लाख रुपीज से ज्यादा, तो उसका रेट होगी 0.5% इफ पैन अवेलेबल एंड 5% इफ पैन नॉट अवेलेबल। और ओवरसीज टूर के लिए कोई लिमिट, कितना भी अमाउंट है यहाँ पे कलेक्ट करेगा सेलर, और रेट इसकी 5% अगर पेन अवेलेबल है और 10% इफ पेन नॉट अवेलेबल। Exclusion for the applicability of fees under section 260 subsection 1G. Section 260 subsection 1G will not be applicable to the following categories of buyers. तो यहाँ पे सेलर डिफाइन है ऑथराइज्ड डीलर और ओवरसीज टूर प्रोग्राम जो सेल कर रहे हैं, लेकिन बायर के अंदर कौन कौन से कवर हो रहे हैं? यहाँ पे बायर के अंदर सारे कवर है एक्सेप्ट सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट एंड एंटिटी, अ हाई कमीशन, legation, commission, consulate, and the trade representation of a foreign state. Authority is defined in section 10, subsection 20 of the Act. Any person specified by the central government through a notification in the official gazette, however, no such person has been notified till. And a buyer who is liable to deduct tax at source under any other has deducted the same. अगर बायर किसी दूसरे टीडीएस अगर वो डिडक्ट कर रहा है तो यहाँ पे वो टीडीएस कलेक्ट करने के लिए उसे कलेक्ट नहीं किया जाएगा। सेक्शन 260 सबसेक्शन 1H टीसीएस ऑन सेल ऑफ गुड्स। यहाँ पे कोई भी हर एक पर्सन जो कि सेलर है अगर वो रिसीव कर रहा है अमाउंट ऑफ कंसिडरेशन और उसकी वैल्यू एक्सीड कर रही है एग्रीगेट के अंदर 50 लाख रुपीज से, shall at the time of receipt of such amount from buyer collect TCS a sum equal to 0.1% of the sale consideration exceeding 50 lakh. तो अदर देन एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ गुड्स अगर वो रिसीव कर रहा है सेल ऑफ गुड्स के लिए 50 लाख और उसकी वैल्यू एक्सीड कर रही है 50 लाख रुपीज, यहाँ पे 50 लाख रुपीज की लिमिट एग्रीगेट में देखेंगे पूरे फाइनेंशियल ईयर के लिए, तो वो टीसीएस पे करेगा 0.1% पे जितना अमाउंट 50 लाख से एक्सीड कर रहा है। अब गुड्स को यहाँ पे डिफाइन, गुड्स की डेफिनेशन इनकम टैक्स एक्ट के अंदर नहीं है गिवन, तो अपन गुड्स जीएसटी एक्ट 2017 से गुड्स की डेफिनेशन रेफर करेंगे। और एज पर जीएसटी एक्ट गुड्स हैज बीन डिफाइंड एज गुड्स मींस एवरी काइंड ऑफ मूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी other than money and securities but includes actionable claims, growing crops, grass and things attached to or forming part of the land which are agreed to be severed before supply or under a contract of supply. डेफिनेशन क्या है सेलर एंड बायर के अंदर सेक्शन 260 सबसेक्शन 1H के अंदर? सेलर मींस एनी पर्सन हुज टर्नओवर एक्सीड्स 10 करोड़ रुपीस इन द प्रीसीडिंग फाइनेंशियल ईयर। तो अगर प्रीसीडिंग फाइनेंशियल ईयर के अंदर उसका टर्नओवर 10 करोड़ से एक्सीड कर रहा है तो वही लायबल है यहाँ पे टीसीएस कर करने के लिए। 260 subsection 1H provides that TCS is required to be collected at the time of receipt of the sale consideration and not at the time of debiting the party ledger amount. तो जब वो रिसीव करे उसी टाइम पे सेलर लायबल है TCS पे करने के लिए. Buyer की definition के अंदर कौन-कौन आ गया? Buyer means a person who purchases any goods but does not include central government, state government, etc. A local authority as defined in the explanation to section 10, subsection 20. The person importing goods into India or any other person notified person. Although no tax is to be collected from them, the same is required to be mentioned in the quarterly TCS statement, form number 27 EQ, and non-disclosure of such items in the quarterly TCS statement is required to be reported by the tax auditor under clause 34B of the tax audit report. अगर सेलर टीसीएस कलेक्ट नहीं कर रहे हैं पर्सन को जिनको एक्सक्लूड कर रखा है सेक्शन के अंदर, लेकिन उसको टीसीएस स्टेटमेंट के अंदर जो कि क्वार्टरली फाइल होती है फॉर्म नंबर 27 EQ, उसके अंदर उसको डिस्क्लोज करना पड़ेगा. इन केस अगर वो डिस्क्लोज नहीं करता है तो यहाँ पे टैक्स ऑडिटर रिपोर्ट करेगा अंडर क्लॉज 34B ऑफ द टैक्स ऑडिट रिपोर्ट के अंदर. इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स अंडर सेक्शन 206 सबसेक्शन 1H के अंदर. TCS is not to be collected on sale of immovable property. Since goods की definition में immovable property नहीं आती है तो यहाँ पे immovable property पे TCS collect नहीं होगा. Consideration receive होना चाहिए actually. अगर सिर्फ सेल कर दी और consideration receive नहीं किया तो यहाँ पे TCS collect नहीं होगा. Cancellation of sale. Practical difficulties may arise where advance is collected for the sale of goods and TCS is remitted, and subsequently the contract is cancelled and the amount is refundable. In such case, the seller may only refund the primary sale consideration received and not the TCS amount. Since such TCS is already credited as per prepaid taxes and will appear in Form 26A, and the buyer should not insist for a refund of the 20 TCS amount as the buyer would otherwise be entitled to a credit of the TCS in the return of income. अगर consideration buyer ने दे दिया और contract cancel हो गया, TCS गवर्नमेंट के पास डिपॉजिट हो गया, तो उसको कंसिडरेशन का अमाउंट तो मिल जाएगा लेकिन टीसीएस नहीं मिलेगा, लेकिन उसका क्रेडिट वो 26A से ले सकता है रिटर्न फाइल करते टाइम. Payment by third party. In quite a few cases, the sale proceeds are partly paid by the government as a release of subsidy, or the costs are refunded by third party payments. All such transactions also amount to receipts on behalf of the buyer, and hence the seller will be under obligation to remit TCS. अगर buyer के behalf में कोई दूसरा पार्टी पेमेंट कर रहा है तो भी माना जाएगा वो buyer ने नहीं पेमेंट किया, उससे TCS कलेक्ट होगा. Whether TCS provisions would be applicable if the amount of sale consideration is adjusted against the amount payable for purchase from said party. In such a situation, though the amount is not received in cash mode, however, there is a deemed receipt of consideration through indirect means, that is, through an adjustment of receivable and payables account, and hence TCS should be collected under such transactions. Even a past, present, or future act is valid consideration under the Contract Act, and therefore consideration should be deemed to have been received on adjustment of mutual liabilities. अगर किसी का पेबल खड़ा है उसके अगर एडजस्ट कर रहा है बाहर के अकाउंट तो यहाँ पे भी टीसीएस कलेक्ट होगा क्योंकि अपन उसको कंसिडरेशन मानेंगे. TCS एप्लीकेबल इवन ऑन पार्ट रिसिप्ट ऑफ कंसिडरेशन. कि TCS का सेट ऑफ अवेलेबल है जैसे अपन को जीएसटी में सेट ऑफ मिल जाता है इनपुट का, तो कि TCS अलाउ है TCS के अंदर तो नो सेट ऑफ इज अलाउड अंडर द एक्ट. फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ PS लिमिटेड ने 1 अक्टूबर 2020 को गुड्स सोल्ड किए 1 करोड़ के SD लिमिटेड को एंड कलेक्ट किया TCS 3750 का. After that, on 15 October 2020, PS Limited ने परचेस किया गुड्स 2 करोड़ का SD लिमिटेड से और या फिर किसी दूसरी पार्टी से और उसने कलेक्ट कर लिया 11,260 का TCS. तो यहाँ पे कोई सेट ऑफ नहीं मिलेगा PS लिमिटेड को और डिपॉजिट करवाना पड़ेगा अपना 3750 का गवर्नमेंट को. पर्सन हैविंग कमीशन इनकम अलोंग विद द सेल ऑफ गुड्स. अगर पर्सन के एक सेलर है उसके पास दो टाइप की इनकम है, बिजनेस इनकम और सेल ऑफ गुड्स, then both are received from the commission business and the sale from the trading business will be considered for determining the limit of turnover to 10 crore. TCS will be required to be collected in respect of consideration received by the seller with regard to commission income. अगर नॉर्मली सेलर के पास कमीशन इनकम है वो सेल भी कर रहे हैं तो जो टर्नओवर का 10 करोड़ का अपन लिमिट देखते हैं प्रीवियस ईयर का, तो उसके अंदर अपन इंक्लूड करेंगे कमीशन इनकम या नहीं करेंगे. तो टर्नओवर की लिमिट देखने के लिए अपन कमीशन इनकम को इंक्लूड करेंगे टर्नओवर के साथ और फिर लिमिट देखेंगे क्या लायबल है नहीं है, लेकिन कमीशन इनकम पे TCS कलेक्ट नहीं करेगा सेलर. सिर्फ सेल ऑफ गुड्स के रेस्पेक्ट में जो कंसिडरेशन रिसीव हुई उसको TCS कलेक्ट होगा. सेल ऑफ गुड्स टू अ पर्सन लोकेटेड इन सेल subject to fulfillment of other conditions. TCS not applicable on transfer of one branch to another. The activity of transfer of goods from one branch to another should not be construed as a sale transaction. Accordingly, TCS need not to be collected on inter-branch transfer of goods. अगर एक ब्रांच दूसरे ब्रांच को ट्रांसफर कर रहा है गुड्स और उससे रिसीव हो रहा है तो उस पर टीसीएस नहीं आएगा, सिंस इनकम टैक्स के अंदर वो 80% है, तो यहाँ पे वो टीसीएस कलेक्ट नहीं करेगा. CBDT has clarified that TCS is not required to be collected on sale consideration received for fuel supply to non-resident airlines at airports in India. TCS not applicable on transactions carried through exchange. अगर कोई securities purchase किए stock through recognized stock exchange or recognized clearing corporation broker international financial service center, तो यहाँ पे TCS applicable नहीं होगा. उसकी definition में securities आता है, लेकिन इस section के अंदर इसको exclude कर दिया है. Example under section 260 subsection 1H. Total sales for the financial year 21-22 excluding GST is 9 crore. GST collect किया sales पे 1.62 crore. Total amount increase of GST is 10.62 crore. Whether seller covered under section 260 subsection 1H. तो अपन जब टर्नओवर की लिमिट देखेंगे तब अपन GST को इंक्लूड करेंगे या नहीं करेंगे. Answer is, in the above example, the SEC would not be covered under provision of section 260 subsection 1H since its turnover is 9 crore only, which is below the threshold limit of 10 crore. तो जो GST का अमाउंट है वो अपनी लाइबिलिटीज में जाता है, ना कि सेल्स के अंदर जाएगा. तो यहाँ पे सिर्फ 9 करोड़ का लिमिट अपन चेक करेंगे कि वो एक्सीड कर रहा है नहीं कर रहा 10 करोड़ से ज्यादा. लेकिन अगर बायर ने कंसिडरेशन दिया है और उसके अंदर GST इंक्लूड है तो GST पे TCS कलेक्ट होगा. Section 261I, Central Government Approval. If there is any difficulty in application of 260 subsection 1G or 1H, the board, after taking approval from central government, can release guidelines to give clarifications and for eliminating any difficulties in application of the same. Section 260 subsection 1J, guidelines issued by board. The guidelines issued by the board under section 261I shall be presented before both houses of parliament. Every person who is responsible to collect the tax under this section and the income tax authorities are bound by the guidelines issued under this section. Now, Tamanna will explain the next one.
Just before moving on to the another topic, this is Yogesh. Right now, what you have discussed is TCS on goods, but just be mindful that there is 194Q, which is TDS on goods, and TDS on goods section will prevail over TCS on goods, and therefore 194Q, wherever TDS is applicable on purchase of goods, then the TCS provisions will not apply. Carry on, continue.
First one has to see whether TDS provisions are there or not.
Right.
And one has to apply this here. But suppose anyone has not complied with the provisions of TDS, then they have to the other party have to comply with the provisions of TCS. Yes, we can continue. Ankit, anything you want to submit?
No, absolutely clear. Clear understanding, Bhupen sir. Nothing.
Thank you, sir. Now, next topic moving forward. TDS return and related provision regarding interest, penalty, etc. So, now let's understand first of all the TCS mechanism, how it works. Let's understand from this picture. In this, the seller sold the car to the buyer. The buyer, in respect of, gives a sales consideration to the seller, in which he gives the TCS amount also. Now, seller collected the TCS amount from the buyer and deposit it to the government. Now, question arises कि collection की time limit क्या होगी और deposit की time limit क्या होगी? So, time limit to collect TCS is date of debiting of an amount payable by the buyer or date of receipt of amount from the buyer via check, cash, draft or any other mode, whichever is earlier. Now what we understand from date of debiting of an amount payable. Date of debiting में ये बताते हैं कि इसमें ये क्लियरली स्पेसिफाई हो रहा है कि क्रेडिट में भी अगर सेल हो रही है तो उसमें भी TCS लग जाएगा क्योंकि डेबिटिंग बोला गया है कि अगर डेबिट में एंट्री क्या पास हो रही होगी कि अगर डेटा टू सेल्स हो रही है तो डेटर्स भी अगर डेबिट कर रहे हैं तो उसमें भी टीसीएस का प्रोविजन एप्लीकेबल हो जाएगा। तो टीसीएस जैसे ही बायर सेलर को देता है, सेलर डायरेक्टली डिपॉजिट करता है गवर्नमेंट को और गवर्नमेंट फिर वो टीसीएस का क्रेडिट बायर को दे देता है, जो कि उसकी 26 एएस में क्लियरली विजिबल होता है। नाउ सेक्शन 2063 subsection 3 which define the time limit for deposit of TDS to the government. So time limit to remit TCS to the account of government and returns is within 7 days from the last day of the month in which tax so collected. Now, the person responsible for collecting tax can file a rectification return in which he can rectify mistake or add, delete or update the information furnished in regular statement. 206C4 specify that any amount collected in accordance with 206C3 deemed to as payment of tax on behalf of the person from whom the amount has been collected. मतलब अगर कोई सेलर गवर्नमेंट को पे कर रहा है टैक्स, तो वो माना जाएगा कि बायर इनडायरेक्टली पे कर रहा है गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स। सेक्शन 206 सब सेक्शन 5 स्पेसिफाई सर्टिफिकेट फॉर टीसीएस within 10 days from the date of debit or receipt of amount shall furnish the buyer a certificate to the effect that tax has been collected and specify amount so collected, rate at which it collected, and other particulars. Filing of TCS return on computer media. Earlier subsection 5A is there in which states that filing of return is in accordance with the provision of Chapter 17BB. The returns so filed contain voluminous data, and preparing these returns are also processing the data contained therein for checking its correctness requires substantial manual efforts. In order to make filing of these returns and processing of data easier, the Act amends Section 206 by inserting subsection B and C to provide for filing of returns on computer media. मीडिया जो भी 5P में सबसेक्शन 5P में रिटर्न फाइल होगी वो माना जाएगा कि वो एज पर सबसेक्शन 5A में फाइल हुई है। नाउ अगर एओ को लगता है कभी कभार कि अगर आपने अपने रिटर्न डिफेक्टिव है आपकी रिटर्न टीसीएस की, तो इंटीमेशन ऑर्डर देता है एसएससी को। इसका रिप्लाई एसएससी को 15 डेज में करना रहता है अपनी रेक्टिफाइड रिटर्न फाइल कर। अगर उसने रेक्टिफाइड रिटर्न फाइल नहीं करी तो इनवैलिड रिटर्न क्लासीफाई हो जाती है आपकी रिटर्न, और ये माना जाता है कि आपने कभी भी रिटर्न फाइल करी है। अब सेक्शन 206C बताता है फेलियर टू सबसेक्शन सी अपने को बताता है कि अगर आपने टीसीएस कलेक्ट नहीं करा, मतलब अगर सेलर ने बायर से टीसीएस का अमाउंट कलेक्ट नहीं करा तो उसकी लायबिलिटी क्या रहेगी, उसे वो खुद अपने पास से पूरा अमाउंट गवर्नमेंट को पे करना रहेगा। वही सेम सबसेक्शन 6 क्या बताता है, फेलियर ऑफ पेमेंट ऑफ टीसीएस इफ एनी पर्सन responsible for collecting tax accordance with the provision of this section doesn't collect the tax the whole or any part of the tax or after collecting fails to pay, अगर उसने कलेक्ट नहीं करा या फिर कलेक्ट करने के बाद पे नहीं करा तो असेसियन डिफॉल्ट क्लासिफाई होगा। बट इसमें भी एक्सेप्शन है कि कब आप असेसियन डिफॉल्ट नहीं क्लासिफाई होंगे। तो इसकी 4 कंडीशन है, अगर वो फुलफिल कर लिए तो एक असेसियन डिफॉल्ट नहीं ट्रीट होगा। वो कंडीशन क्या है 4? अगर उसने रिटर्न फर्निश नहीं करी हो अगर उसने रिटर्न फर्निश कर दी हो अंडर सेक्शन 139 में और उसने अपनी कंप्यूटेशन के वक्त में वो अमाउंट कंसीडर कर लिया हो और उस पर ड्यूली अपना टैक्स भी पे कर दिया हो रिटर्न में अपनी, और साथ में सर्टिफाई भी हुआ हो सीए सर्टिफिकेट के साथ इन फॉर्म नंबर 27BA, तो उस पर असेसियन डिफॉल्ट नहीं कहलाया जाएगा। प्रोवाइडेड फर्दर नो पेनल्टी shall be charged under section 221 if AO is satisfied that such person with good and sufficient reason failed to collect and pay tax. Subsection C7 talks about interest in case of fail to collect or paid TCS. Now अब ये क्या बताता है कि अगर आपने फेल कर रहा है आप कलेक्ट या पेमेंट करने के लिए टीसीएस का, तो ये इंटरेस्ट की लायबिलिटी बताता है कि कब आप पे इंटरेस्ट अट्रैक्ट होगा। तो अगर उसने विद इन ड्यू डेट जो कि अपन ने अर्लियर डिस्कस करी, अगर उसके अंदर वो कलेक्ट नहीं कर पाता टीसीएस को या फिर पे नहीं कर पाता गवर्नमेंट को, तो उस पर सिंपल रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट से 1% पे लग जाएगा पर मंथ और पार्ट देयर ऑफ। पेनल्टी सेक्शन की बात करते हैं। सेक्शन 271 CA फेलियर टू कलेक्ट टीसीएस। अगर सेलर ने कलेक्ट नहीं करा हो टीसीएस बायर से, तो वो लायबल है कितने अमाउंट के लिए, कि जितना उसने बायर से कलेक्ट नहीं करा वो खुद अपने पास से गवर्नमेंट को देगा। तो सम इक्वल टू एन अमाउंट ऑफ टैक्स नॉट कलेक्टेड। इसमें इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट ये है कि ये वाली पेनल्टी सिर्फ जॉइंट कमिश्नर इम्पोज कर सकता है, नॉट अदर देन एनी अथॉरिटी। वाइल सेक्शन 276 BB फेलियर टू पे टीसीएस, इसमें कोई भी स्पेसिफिक अथॉरिटी मेंशन नहीं है और इसमें पेनल्टी का अमाउंट है अगर आपने फेल कर गए पे करने में, तो उसमें आपको प्रोसिक्यूशन हो सकती है मोर देन 3 months बट अप टू 7 years with additional fine. As per section 273B, even in case of default, if the seller proves that the reasonable cause for the failure, then the penalty payable under section 271 CA can be avoided. Now question arises कि अगर असेसी इन डिफॉल्ट नहीं कहलाया गया, फिर भी वो क्या इंटरेस्ट उस पे लेवी होगा? क्योंकि अब वो तो असेसी इन डिफॉल्ट नहीं कहलाया गया, तो इंटरेस्ट लेवी होगा उस पे? होगा इंटरेस्ट लेवी, तो आंसर सही है, क्योंकि इंटरेस्ट लेवी होना चाहिए। असेसी इन डिफॉल्ट होने से वो पेनल्टी से फिर भी बच सकता है, बट इंटरेस्ट अमाउंट से नहीं। तो यस, फॉर दिस रिलायंस इज प्लेस्ड ऑन द डिसीजन ऑफ ITAD ऑर्डर in case of Ratio Engineering Private Limited.
गौतम से बैठने का बहुत अरे उसमें खूब डालेंगे उसमें कुछ नहीं करती है
Inserted by Act 2002, if the AO has passed the order treating person as assessee in default.
चलो मैंने स्नैपचैट डिलीट कर दिया है, मतलब ध्यान दिया, हाँ वो ध्यान करा।
Inserted by Finance Act 2002, if the AO has passed the order treating as a person as assessee in default, then interest shall be paid by the assessee in accordance with the said order. Now, subsection 9 talks about the lower deduction certificate. अब कौन-कौन lower rate से TCS कलेक्ट कर सकता है? सेलर किस से कर सकता है? कौन सी ऐसी स्टेज है जिसमें वो लोअर रेट से TCS कलेक्ट कर सकता है? तो ये लो रेट का सर्टिफिकेट अगर बायर ने ले रखा है फॉर्म 13 के अकॉर्डिंग कि अ बायर फॉर TCS अंडर सेक्शन 206C सबसेक्शन 1 ऑन सेल ऑफ स्क्रैप टिम्बर कोल टेंडू लीव्स एक्सेट्रा, या फिर लाइसेंसी और लेसी फॉर TCS अंडर सेक्शन 206C सबसेक्शन 1C फॉर लीज और लाइसेंस एक्सेट्रा. But point to consider is that the lower rate certificate cannot be obtained for following 3 cases. For sale of motor vehicle covered under subsection 1F, for payment under LRS scheme or sale of overseas tour programs subsection 1G, and for sale consideration of goods subsection 1G. तो TCS अगर उसने लो रेट सर्टिफिकेट ले रखा है तो उसका TCS भी उस रेट के अकॉर्डिंग ही सेलर कलेक्ट करेगा until the AO cancels the certificate. अब सबसेक्शन 10A निकाला गया था कोविड टाइम्स के लिए, जिसमें रिड्यूस रेट्स स्पेसिफाई कर रखी है कि 3/4 ऑफ रेट एप्लीकेबल होगी, और ये वाली रिड्यूस रेट कब एप्लीकेबल होती है? ये टाइम पीरियड अपने सिर्फ 14 मई 2020 से लेकर 31 मार्च 21 तक ही एप्लीकेबल थी. अब ये रिड्यूस रेट्स का कुछ प्रोविजन एप्लीकेबल नहीं है. Now 10 number tax collection account number under section 206 CA. Every person liable to collect TCS shall apply for TAN within 1 month from the date of collection of tax. तो अगर कोई भी पर्सन लाइबल है कि उसे कलेक्ट करना है TCS का अमाउंट बायर से, तो उसे विद इन 1 मंथ के अंदर 10 नंबर भी लेना रहेगा और उसे अपना 10 नंबर स्पेसिफाई करना पड़ेगा हर चालान में, फॉर्म 27D में और अपनी रिटर्न में या फिर ऑल अदर डॉक्यूमेंट्स में जो कि प्रिस्क्राइब कर रखे हैं इंटरेस्ट ऑफ रेवेन्यू के अकॉर्डिंग। नाउ प्रोसेसिंग ऑफ स्टेटमेंट की बात करते हैं कि अगर आपका कोई भी स्टेटमेंट आपने टीसीएस स्टेटमेंट फाइल करा है तो कैसे प्रोसेस होगा। उसके 3 फॉलोइंग मैनर्स होते हैं। पहले तो देखेगा सम कलेक्टेबल आफ्टर मेकिंग एडजस्टमेंट, जिसमें वो 2 चीजें देखेगा, कोई एक अर्थमेटिकल एरर थोड़ी हुई है या फिर कोई इनकरेक्ट क्लेम थोड़ी मांग रखा है। अब इनकरेक्ट क्लेम भी स्पेसिफाई डिफाइन हुआ है कि ऐसा क्लेम जो कि आपकी एक एंट्री गिवन है उससे वो दूसरी एंट्री से इनकंसिस्टेंट हो रहा है या फिर कोई रेट ऑफ टीसीएस अकॉर्डिंग टू प्रोविजन ऑफ दिस एक्ट के अकॉर्डिंग, तो उस पे वो प्रोसेसिंग करेगा। या फिर फीस शैल बी कैलकुलेटेड एज पर अंडर सेक्शन 234E के अकॉर्डिंग है या फिर इंटरेस्ट पेबल। आफ्टर प्रोसेसिंग टीडीएस टीसीएस स्टेटमेंट एन इंटीमेशन इज जनरेटेड, एक इंटीमेशन जनरेट होगी, बट ये याद रखना है कि इंटीमेशन कभी भी नहीं आ सकती आपके एक्सपायरी ऑफ 1 ईयर। जब भी आपने स्टेटमेंट फाइल कर लिया है उसके 1 ईयर के बाद कोई भी इंटीमेशन नहीं आएगी। और नोट section 206CB subsection 2 of the act authorizes the CBDT to make a scheme to authorize CBC to process TCS statement, but till now no such scheme has been notified by the board. Thereof, any processing of TCS statement filed in form 27Q is not authorized and CPC cannot process TCS statement. Even CBDT cannot authorize CPC to determine the interest payable or late fees. नाउ टीसीएस स्टेटमेंट कौन प्रोसेस करता है? टीसीएस सीपीसी गाजियाबाद। और इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न की प्रोसेस कौन करता है? सीपीसी बेंगलुरु। तो अब क्वेश्चन ये राइज होता है क्या टीडीएस सीपीसी जो अथॉरिटी है वो लेट फी या इंटरेस्ट की प्रोसेसिंग कर सकती है? तो अगर अपन सेक्शन 200A सबसेक्शन 2 रीड करें तो वो क्या बोलता है? फॉर द पर्पस ऑफ प्रोसेसिंग ऑफ स्टेटमेंट अंडर सबसेक्शन 1 द बोर्ड मे मेक अ स्कीम फॉर सेंट्रलाइज्ड प्रोसेसिंग ऑफ स्टेटमेंट of tax deducted at source to determine the tax payable or refund due to। तो इसमें क्लियरली स्पेसिफाई हुआ है कि टैक्स पेबल या रिफंड इन दोनों के लिए ही वो कर सकता है प्रोसेसिंग। तो अब जब इसमें क्वेश्चन अब ये भी अराइज होता है कि टैक्स पेबल में क्या टैक्स वर्ड में इंटरेस्ट का अमाउंट इंक्लूडेड है या लेट फी भी वो बोल रहा है क्या? तो इसके लिए अपने सेक्शन 2 सबसेक्शन क्लॉज 43 में डिफाइन कर रखा है कि टैक्स डजंट इंक्लूड इंटरेस्ट पेनल्टी एंड लेट फीस। और फॉर दिस रिलायंस इज प्लेस्ड ऑन द डिसीजन ऑफ बॉम्बे हाई कोर्ट इन केस ऑफ CIT वर्सेस ऑरेक्स फाइनेंस एंड इन्वेस्टमेंट प्राइवेट लिमिटेड wherein it is held that tax in arrear wouldn't include the interest amount. Further, High Court of Karnataka in case of H. Ibrahim and Oz versus Deputy Commissioner of Income Tax held that that component of income tax doesn't include the payment of penalty as well as interest. Though this matter is still disputable and it is vague, what courts and tribunals interpret in days to come. Now, अगर कोई भी डिमांड नोटिस प्रोवाइड हुआ है तो उस पर भी इंटरेस्ट की पेनल्टी लग सकती है। कब? कोई भी टीडीएस स्टेटमेंट प्रोसेस हुआ है, अगर वो प्रोसेस होने के बाद कुछ भी अमाउंट पेबल या रिफंडेबल आपका बन रहा है तो एओ उसके लिए इंटीमेशन जनरेट करता है जो कि डीम्ड होती है डिमांड नोटिस अंडर सेक्शन 156 के अंडर, जिसको विद इन 30 डेज में असेसी की लायबिलिटी की वो अमाउंट जितना भी ड्यू है वो पे करे। अगर वो पे कर जाता है अमाउंट पे करने में तो उस पर 1% रेट से सिंपल इंटरेस्ट रेट एप्लीकेबल होगी फॉर एवरी मंथ और पार्ट ऑफ देयर ऑफ। बट इसमें ये है कि अगर उसने इस डिमांड नोटिस के रिगार्डिंग कोई अपील या अदर प्रोसीडिंग फाइल कर रखी है या इनिशिएट हुई भी है तो डिमांड नोटिस डीम टू बी वैलिड टिल डिस्पोजल ऑफ अपील, तो वो डिमांड नोटिस तो वैलिड माना जाएगा तब जब तक अपील चल रहा है। अगर उस अपील का डिस्पोजल आ जाता है तब वो डिमांड नोटिस फिर भी वैलिड नहीं होगा, बट उससे पहले वो वैलिड है। और नोट 30 डेज कैन बी रिड्यूस हो सकता है अगर हायर अप्रूवल ले ले एओ डेजिग्नेटेड अथॉरिटी से। Provided further, if interest is already charged under section 201 subsection 1A for TCS return or under section 206C subsection 7 for TCS return, then no interest shall be charged under section 220 on the same amount for the same period. Now let's talk about section 206CA, which talks about waiver of interest by commissioner. कि कमिश्नर भी काफी बार वेव कर सकता है आपका इंटरेस्ट या फिर वेव नहीं तो रिड्यूस कर सकता है। तो इसमें कमिश्नर भी डिफाइंड हुआ है कौन आपकी इंटरेस्ट वेव या रिड्यूस कर सकता है। तो प्रिंसिपल चीफ कमिश्नर या फिर चीफ कमिश्नर या प्रिंसिपल ओनली कमिश्नर, वो आपकी इंटरेस्ट की लायबिलिटी को वेव कर सकते हैं, रिड्यूस कर सकता है अगर ये 3 कंडीशन सेटिस्फाई हो गए। तो अगर पेमेंट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट से कोई जेन्युइन हार्डशिप आ रही है टैक्स पेयर को, या फिर डिफॉल्ट पेमेंट की डिफॉल्ट में उसका कोई सर्कमस्टेंस हुआ है जो कि बियॉन्ड द कंट्रोलर्स के, या फिर टैक्स पेयर ने कॉपरेट कर रखा है पूरा इंक्वायरी के वक्त में असेसमेंट के अंदर। नोट, तो कमिश्नर ने जो असेसी ने जब भी एप्लीकेशन फाइल करी है उसके विदिन 12 मंथ्स में ही कमिश्नर को वेव या रिड्यूस का देना रहेगा ऑर्डर, या फिर रिजेक्ट करने का। उसके बाद 12 मंथ्स के बाद वो ऑर्डर इनवैलिड हो जाएगा, या फिर और अगर रिजेक्ट है कमिश्नर ने एप्लीकेशन असेसी की तो उसे अपॉर्चुनिटी ऑफ बीइंग हर्ड मिलना चाहिए। नाउ रिक्वायरमेंट टू फर्निश पैन, इसमें ये सब सेक्शन 206 डबल सी ये मैंडेट करता है कि हर एक बायर को अपना पैन नंबर दिखाना बहुत जरूरी है जब भी वो टीसीएस पे कर रहा है या और सेलर कलेक्ट कर रहा है, तो उसमें पैन कंपलसरी है मेंशन होना बायर का। अगर बायर फेल कर जाता है पैन मेंशन करने में तो उस पर हायर ऑफ द रेट एप्लीकेबल है, ट्वाइस द रेट स्पेसिफाइड इन सेक्शन 206C और 5% व्हिचएवर इज हायर। और अगर उसने पैन मेंशन करा है तो सेलर और बायर दोनों की रिस्पांसिबिलिटी है कि अपने सारे कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंस, बिल्स, वाउचर्स या अदर डॉक्यूमेंट्स में फर्निश कर रखा है या इनकरेक्ट है, तो वो डीम माना जाएगा कि उसे कोई भी इंफॉर्मेशन दी है कि उसने पैन फर्निश नहीं करा, तो उसका ये माना जाएगा कि उसने पैन कभी फर्निश नहीं करा, उस पे सेक्शन 206CC एप्लीकेबल हो जाएगा। साथ में अगर पैन फर्निश उसने नहीं करा ये डॉक्यूमेंट्स इनवैलिड और उस पे सेक्शन 206CC की रेट एप्लीकेबल हो जाएगी। तो ये डॉक्यूमेंट्स कौन, अगर लोअर डिडक्शन सर्टिफिकेट जो कि अपन ने अभी सेक्शन 206C सबसेक्शन 9 में पढ़े, या फिर कोई डिक्लेरेशन उसने दी है अंडर सबसेक्शन 1A में। नाउ सेक्शन 206CCA talks about the special provision for TCS for non-filers of ITR. टैक्स TCS स्पेसिफाइड पर्सन गिवन है कि उनपे ये हायर रेट लगेगा या हायर रेट सेम है जो कि सेक्शन 206CC में गिवन थी अगर असेसी ने पैन फर्निश नहीं कर रखा। तब बस इसमें क्वेश्चन ये राइज होता है स्पेसिफाइड पर्सन है कौन। स्पेसिफाइड पर्सन सिंपल सी बात है कौन होंगे कि जिन्होंने लास्ट ईयर अपनी ITR फाइल नहीं करी और ITR फाइल करने की डेडलाइन भी लैप्स हो गई अंडर सेक्शन 139 में, और जिनका एग्रीगेट TDS एंड TCS का अमाउंट मिनिमम 50,000 तो जा ही रहा था। इसको एग्जांपल के साथ समझते हैं, जैसे असेसमेंट ईयर 23-24 की बात करें तो स्पेसिफाइड पर्सन कौन होगा जिसने ITR फाइल नहीं करी प्रीवियस ईयर 21-22 की, और साथ में जिन्होंने TDS प्लस TCS का अमाउंट 50,000 या मोर पे करा है उस ईयर में, प्लस ये सेक्शन 206CC और 206CCA किस पे एप्लीकेबल होगा, ये किसी भी नॉन रेजिडेंट पे एप्लीकेबल नहीं होगा जिसका परमानेंट एस्टेब्लिशमेंट इंडिया में नहीं है, PE इंडिया में नहीं है। अब PE से अपन क्या समझते हैं, कोई भी फिक्स प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस जिधर से एस्टेब्लिशमेंट होता है कैरीज करता है एक बिजनेस अपना। सेक्शन 277 बताता है फॉल्स स्टेटमेंट इन वेरिफिकेशन एक्सेट्रा। सेक्शन 277 provides
Just one minute. How would you know that a person is a specified person? Means as a person, when you are doing TDS or collecting TCS, how do you know that the other person is a specified person or not? For example, you have 10,000 vendors, है ना? So 10,000 vendors से क्या आप पूछोगे कि आप specified person हो क्या?
might be गवर्नमेंट कोई लिस्ट निकालता होगा जिन्होंने ITR फाइल नहीं करी, ऐसा not sure about it.
So, you know, for this, the department has come up with a utility. There is a compliance portal utility, and over there, at the start of every financial year, the person has to upload all the PAN number and download a report the report will specify whether that particular PAN number is a specified person PAN or not. So this is the method which has been prescribed under the income tax law to identify whether a PAN is a specified person or not. Otherwise, just think the magnitude of it. For example, you have 10,000, 20,000 vendors to whom you have to identify whether that PAN number is a specified. So you cannot ask 20,000 people that are you a specified person, give a declaration for it, give your proof that you have filed your return of income. That's a hell lot of compliance, and therefore the department came up with this utility. And even there is a circular on this which provides guidance on how to use that utility, what is the time limit, and that utility provides, or that circular provides that at the start of every financial year, just upload the entire, do a bulk upload of the entire PAN numbers onto the compliance portal, and then it will give you a report. And you save that report for your records and verification, maybe in the future purposes. And this is how you get to know that a person is a specified person or not a specified person.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Right.
Next, moving forward. Section 277, false statement in verification, etc. Section 277 provides for making producing false accounts document. If a taxpayer makes statement in any under the Act or under the any rules or deliver an account which is false or which knows believes to be false, believe it to be true, it can be punishable. Which goes up to 7 years, and in other cases it's start from 3 months to like a 2 years की, with additional 5. Note, as per section 278 AAA, no person shall be punished for above failure if he proves that there is reasonable cause for such failure. Now I hand over mic to Rahul Bansal to further extend the class.
Thank you, Tamanna. Now, moving forward to the next topic. This is return under TCS as per Rule 31AA. As per Section 206C to 27 EQ, a quarterly return must be filed by every person who have collected TCS. The return must be filed by 15th of the next month following the quarter ending. मतलब जो भी TCS कलेक्ट कर रहा है उसको एक रिटर्न फाइल करनी पड़ती है, वो फॉर्म 27 EQ में क्वार्टरली रिटर्न फाइल करता है एवरी क्वार्टर एंडिंग. अगर 30 जून है तो वो 15 जुलाई को करेगा, तो 30 सितंबर को 15 अक्टूबर, और अगर 31 दिसंबर है तो 15 जनवरी. बट इन द केस ऑफ 31 मार्च उसको 1 मंथ एक्स्ट्रा मिलता है, सो 31 मार्च के केस में 15 मई को फाइल करेगा. प्रोसीजर फॉर फाइलिंग टीसीएस रिटर्न. तो टीसीएस रिटर्न फाइल करने के लिए सबसे पहले जो टीसीएस स्टेटमेंट प्रिपेयर करेंगे उसके लिए अपन करेंगे रिटर्न प्रिपरेशन यूटिलिटी. आरपीयू के जो आरपीयू ऑफलाइन यूटिलिटी अपन एनएसडीएल के पोर्टल से डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं, और उसके थ्रू अपन टीसीएस स्टेटमेंट प्रिपेयर करेंगे. आफ्टर देन वी वैलिडेट द स्टेटमेंट. अगर जो अपन ने रिटर्न प्रिपरेशन यूटिलिटी बनाई है उसमें अगर कोई भी एरर्स, फॉर्मेटिंग रिलेटेड एरर्स है, उनको वैलिडेट करेंगे. उसके आफ्टर जो फाइल वैलिडेशन यूटिलिटी एफयू है वो जनरेट हो जाएगी. उसके जनरेट होने के बाद अपन इनकम टैक्स पोर्टल पर एफयू को जिप फोल्डर में अटैच कर देंगे थ्रू आवर डिजिटल सिग्नेचर. सो इसके बाद में जो टीसीएस रिटर्न है वो फाइल हो जाएगी. नाउ लेट फाइलिंग फीस अंडर सेक्शन 234E. तो अगर जो भी पर्सन जो टीसीएस कलेक्ट कर रहा है और वो लेट फाइल करता है जो टीसीएस रिटर्न, जो तो उस पर इनकम टैक्स के अकॉर्डिंग पेनल्टी लेट फीस इम्पोज होती है 200 रुपीज फॉर एवरी डे, जब भी उसने ये फेलियर कंटिन्यूज किया है. और जो अमाउंट ऑफ लेट फीस शैल नॉट एक्सीड द अमाउंट ऑफ टीसीएस. TCS return cannot be filed without payment of late filing fees as discussed above. In other words, the late filing fees shall be deposited before filing the TDS return. It should be noted that 200 per day is not penalty, but it is a late filing fees. ये इसलिए बताया गया है कि जो 200 फीस जो है वो पेनल्टी नहीं है, only late fee है, because as per section 271 as penalty की amount अलग से दी गई है. So as per section 271 as where a person fails to file the statement of tax deducted collected at source on or before the due dates prescribed in this regard or filing incorrect TDS return, then assessing officer may direct such person to pay penalty under section 271H. So इसमें minimum penalty 10,000 rupees की है और maximum 1 lakh तक हो सकती है, और जो penalty under section 271H है वो will be in addition to the late filing fees. यानी आपको late filing fees तो हर हालत में देनी पड़ेगी, उसके addition में penalty लगेगी आपको सेक्शन 271H के अकॉर्डिंग. लेकिन इसके लिए भी गवर्नमेंट ने एग्जम्पशन दे रखी है. वो एग्जम्पशन ये है, नो पेनल्टी अंडर सेक्शन 271H विल बी लेविड इन केस ऑफ डिले इन फाइलिंग द टीडीएस रिटर्न. सो ये जो एग्जम्पशन ओनली इन केस ऑफ डिले ऑफ फाइलिंग टीडीएस रिटर्न है, नॉट इन केस ऑफ इनकरेक्ट रिटर्न. अगर आप इनकरेक्ट फाइलिंग कर देते हैं तो आपको ये पेनल्टी 10,000 to 1 लाख रुपीज की देनी पड़ेगी. सो कंडीशंस ये हैं, एक तो जो भी टीडीएस या टीसीएस बन रहा है वो उसने क्रेडिट कर दिया है गवर्नमेंट के अकाउंट पे. सेकंड, जो लेट फाइलिंग फीस है अलोंग विद इंटरेस्ट इफ एप्लीकेबल is paid to the credit of the government. And the third one is that TDS return is filed before the expiry of a period of 1 year. मतलब जो भी TDS रिटर्न की जो ड्यू डेट थी उस फाइल करने की, उसके विद इन 1 ईयर में अगर वो कभी भी फाइल कर देता है टीसीएस रिटर्न तो ये पेनल्टी इम्पोज नहीं होगी, अदरवाइज उसको ये पेनल्टी पे करनी है. तो इसको एक इलस्ट्रेशन से समझते हैं. The quarterly statement of tax collected at source TCS return for the second quarter of the year 2022-23 is filed by Mr. Jagannath on 4th of December 2022. Tax collected at source during the quarter amounting to rupees 2520. What will be the amount of late filing fees to be paid by him for delay in filing the TCS return? So इस केस में जो second quarter की TCS return है means the quarter ending on 30th September. तो इसकी होगी 15th of October. तो उसने 15 अक्टूबर को फाइल न करके जो रिटर्न फाइल किया 4th of दिसंबर को फाइल किया. सो अपन 15 अक्टूबर के बाद में 16 अक्टूबर से डेज काउंट करेंगे लेट फाइलिंग फीस के लिए. तो और उसमें 4th of दिसंबर जब उसने टीसीएस रिटर्न जो सबमिट किया तो वो भी इंक्लूड होगा. तो सबको मिला के जो डेज होते हैं 50 डेज होते हैं, तो उसके अकॉर्डिंग 10,000 रुपीज 200 रुपीज के हिसाब से 10,000 रुपीज पेनल्टी हो जाएगी. बट एज पर द इनकम टैक्स जो टीसीएस अमाउंट है वो पेनल्टी अमाउंट नॉट exceeds the TCS amount. So TCS amount is 2520 and the penalty amount is 10,000. So इसके लिए जो लेट फाइलिंग फीस होगी और द क्वार्टर सेकंड क्वार्टर इज 2520 क्योंकि वो एक्सीड नहीं कर सकती the TCS amount penalty. And the second illustration, the quarterly statement of tax collected at source TCS return for the first quarter of the year 2022-23 is filed by Mr. Kunal on 4th of April 2023. Tax deducted at source during the quarter amounted to rupees 84,000. Before filing the TCS return, he has paid the TCS interest and late filing fees to the credit of the government. Will he be liable to penalty under section 271H for delay in filing the TDS return? तो अपन ने पहले इसमें देखा था कि 3 एग्जेम्पशन दी गई है जो भी टैक्स पेयर है 271H की पेनल्टी से बचने के लिए. तो उसमें फर्स्ट थी कि अगर वो जो भी टीसीएस अमाउंट है वो पे कर देता है टू द अकाउंट ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट, तो इसमें फर्स्ट कंडीशन सेटिस्फाई हो रही है. तो 84,000 तो उसने पे कर दिया इंटरेस्ट एंड लेट फाइलिंग फी. और सेकंड कंडीशन है कि लेट फाइलिंग जो भी फीस है अलोंग विद इंटरेस्ट वो पे कर देता है. एंड द थर्ड वन इज अगर वो अपनी रिटर्न विद इन 1 ईयर में फाइल कर देता है. तो इस केस में उसने अपनी रिटर्न फाइल फर्स्ट क्वार्टर एंडेड होगा 30th of जून को. तो उसकी जो ड्यू डेट होगी वो होगी 15th ऑफ जुलाई। सो 15th ऑफ जुलाई से अपन 1 ईयर देखेंगे तो वो 1 ईयर होगा 15 जुलाई 2023, लेकिन उसने फाइल कर दी 4th ऑफ अप्रैल 2023 से, यानी वो बिफोर द 1 ईयर वो फाइल कर रहा है। So penalty under section 271H will not be levied on this case. Now moving forward, next topic, TCS mechanism in GST. So earlier discussed by Ankit sir, जो TCS mechanism है वो e-commerce vendor होता है, e-commerce operator होता है, उस पर applicable होता है. So suppose a certain product is sold at ₹1,000 to an e-commerce operator by a seller. So the operator would deduct tax at the rate 1% of the net value of ₹1,000. मीन्स अगर जो 10 रुपीज है ऑपरेटर डिडक्ट मतलब कलेक्ट कर लेगा बायर से, और जो 990 रुपीज है वो फॉरवर्ड कर देगा आफ्टर डिडक्टिंग हिज कमीशन टू द सेलर, और आफ्टर कलेक्टिंग द TCS he will be liable to pay deposited he is required to be deposited by the 10th of the following month. So उसको अगले मंथ के 10th of the 10 तारीख तक उसको डिपॉजिट करना रहेगा. अब नाउ स्टैट्यूटरी प्रोविजन रिलेटिंग टू TCS. तो सबसे पहले रजिस्ट्रेशन की बात आती है. तो इसमें ई कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर के साथ साथ जो सप्लायर है जो उसके ई कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर के थ्रू माल सप्लाई कर रहा है, तो उसको भी TCS के अकॉर्डिंग GST के अकॉर्डिंग रजिस्ट्रेशन करवाना पड़ेगा. एंड सेकेंड इज पावर टू कलेक्ट टैक्स, और इसमें एज पर CGST एक्ट सेक्शन 5 जो 52 है वो स्पेसिफाई करता है कि ई कॉमर्स ऑपरेटर कलेक्ट करेगा टैक्स, और जो TCS स्टेटमेंट है वो भी उसको सबमिट करना पड़ेगा. द अमाउंट ऑफ टैक्स कलेक्टेड बाय द ऑपरेटर इज रिक्वायर्ड टू बी डिपॉजिटेड बाय द 10th ऑफ द फॉलोइंग मंथ्स ड्यूरिंग व्हिच सच कलेक्शन इज मेड. और क्रेडिट ऑफ टैक्स कलेक्टेड, तो जो TCS है उसकी क्रेडिट अवेलेबल रहेगी सप्लायर के लिए. ये जो TCS जैसे ही वो गवर्नमेंट को पे कर देगा तो सप्लायर कैन क्लेम क्रेडिट ऑफ TCS थ्रू इट्स कैश लेजर. और देन आफ्टर मैचिंग ऑफ डिटेल्स ऑफ सप्लाईज, तो TCS स्टेटमेंट एंड द मैचिंग ऑफ सप्लाईज में देखते हैं. TCS स्टेटमेंट में द ऑपरेटर इज रिक्वायर्ड टू फर्निश ए monthly statement in form GSTR 8 by the 10th of the following month. So the operator is also required to file an annual statement in prescribed form by the 31st of the December following the end of every financial year. The operator can rectify errors in the statement filed, if any, latest by the return to be filed for the month of September. अगर कोई भी एरर्स रह गई है उसकी स्टेटमेंट में GSTR 8 में, तो उसको वो रेक्टिफाई कर सकता है नेक्स्ट फाइनेंशियल ईयर के सितंबर मंथ की जो रिटर्न वो फाइल करेगा तब तक कोई भी एरर रेक्टिफाई कर सकता है. The details furnished by the operator in GSTR 8 shall be made available electronic to each of the suppliers in Part C of Form GSTR 2A on the common portal after the due date of filing of Form GSTR 8. अब आता है मैचिंग ऑफ डिटेल्स ऑफ सप्लाई. सो जो भी सप्लायर ने GSTR 3 भी अपनी फाइल की है और जो ऑपरेटर है उसने GSTR 8 फाइल किया है, तो वो मैच करेंगे. अगर वो इफ देयर इज एनी डिस्क्रिपेंसीज इन द वैल्यू ऑफ सप्लाईज, द सेम वुड बी कम्युनिकेटेड टू द बोथ ऑफ द देम. अगर कोई भी डिस्क्रिपेंसी रहती है दोनों की जो भी सप्लाईज में, तो उन दोनों को कम्युनिकेट की जाएगी. और अगर ये डिस्क्रिपेंसीज rectified नहीं होती है within the given time, then such amount would be added to the output tax liability of supplier. तो जो भी डिस्क्रिपेंसी रहेगी वो सप्लायर की आउटपुट टैक्स लायबिलिटी में ऐड करती जाएगी, ना कि ऑपरेटर की में. The supplier will have to pay the differential amount of output tax along with interest. Now rules governing TCS. तो इसमें बेसिकली 5 रूल्स हैं जिसके अपन पढ़ेंगे. फर्स्ट इज 37D, 37CA, 37I, 37EA and 37H. So 37D is for certificate of tax collected at source under section 206C. So जो भी कलेक्टर है जो TCS कलेक्ट करता है तो उसको सर्टिफिकेट इश्यू करना पड़ेगा इन द फॉर्म ऑफ 27D. और जो सर्टिफिकेट में रहेगी, एक तो पैन रहेगा कलेक्टी का, मतलब जिसका वो TCS कलेक्ट कर रहा है उसका पैन नंबर उसमें रहेगा. सेकंड वैलिड टैक्स डिडक्शन कलेक्शन पैन नंबर रहेगा कलेक्टर का. बुक आइडेंटिफिकेशन नंबर और नंबर्स वेयर डिपॉजिट्स ऑफ टैक्स कलेक्टेड इज विदाउट प्रोडक्शन ऑफ चालान ऑफ पेमेंट थ्रू बैंक. Receipt number of the relevant quarterly statement of tax collected at source, which is furnished in accordance with the provision of Rule 31AA. The certificate in the form number 27D referred to in sub-rule 1 shall be furnished to the collective within 15 days from the due date for furnishing the statement of tax collected at its source specified under sub-rule 2 of Rule 31AA. The collector may issue a duplicate certificate in form number 27D if the collectee has lost the original certificate. Where a certificate is to be furnished for tax collected before the first day of April 2010, it shall be furnished in the form in accordance with the provision of the rule as they stood immediately before the substitution of the Income Tax 6th Amendment. Next rule is Rule 37CA, time and mode of payment to government account of tax collected source under Section 206C. So time of payment क्या है कि in case of government office of the government, if the अगर इनकम टैक्स चालान के विदाउट अपन टैक्स पे वो कर रहे हैं in case of collection of TCS by an office of the government. So इस case में on the same day where the tax is so paid without production of an income tax चालान or on or above 7 days from the end of the month in which the collection is made where tax is paid accompanied by an income tax चालान. अगर income tax चालान के साथ अपन इनकम टैक्स साथ कर रहे हैं तब तो विद इन 7 days में कर सकते हैं और विदाउट प्रोडक्शन ऑफ इनकम टैक्स चालान हो रहा है तो सेम डे अपन को पे करना पड़ेगा. इन केस ऑफ कलेक्शन ऑफ टीसीएस other than an office of the government, all sum collected in accordance with the provision 32A of section 206C by collectors other than an office of the government shall be paid to the credit of the CG within 1 week from the last day of the month in which the collection is made. In the case of an office of the government where tax has been paid to the credit of the central government without the production of चालान, तो इसके साथ उनको क्या करना पड़ेगा, the pay and the account officer जो है उनको एक सबमिट करना पड़ेगा एक स्टेटमेंट इन फॉर्म ऑफ 24G टू द एजेंसी ऑथराइज्ड बाय द प्रिंसिपल डायरेक्टर ऑफ इनकम टैक्स इन रेस्पेक्ट ऑफ टैक्स कलेक्टेड बाय द कलेक्टर्स एंड रिपोर्टेड टू हिम. Or statement referred to in sub rule 3 shall be furnished on or before the 30th day of April where the statement relates to the month of March and in any other cases on or before 15 days from the end of the relevant month. और जो मोड ऑफ पेमेंट ऑफ टीसीएस है उसमें दो ही मोड है. फर्स्ट इज डेबिट कार्ड और सेकंड इज इंटरनेट बैंकिंग फैसिलिटी ऑफ द आरबीआई और द स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया और एनी ऑथराइज्ड बैंक. Rule 37I, credit for tax collected at source for the purpose of subsection 4 of section 206C. Where tax has been collected at source and paid to the CG, credit for such tax shall be given for the assessment year for which the income is assessable to tax. Credit for TCS and paid to the account of the government shall be granted on the basis of the information relating to collection of tax furnished by the collector to the income tax authority or the person authorized by such authority. The information in the return of income in respect of the claim for the credit subject to verification in accordance with the risk management strategy formulated by the board from time to time. Now, Rule 37EA, returns regarding tax collected at source on computer media under Section 5B or Section 206. Computer media means floppies and the CD-ROM, etc. So 37A, where a person responsible for collecting tax under chapter chapter 17BB is required to file any return referred to in Rule 37E on computer media. Such person shall deliver or cause to be delivered such return in accordance with such scheme as may be specified by board in the behalf within the time specified under Rule 37E. The return filed on the computer media shall contain all the information required under Rule 37E. The return filed on the computer media shall be accompanied by form number 27B, furnishing the information specified therein. Next rule is Rule 37H, certificate for collection of tax at lower rates from buyer under subsection 9 of the section. मतलब अगर जो assessing officer है बायर की रिक्वेस्ट पे वो चाहे तो बायर को एग्जेम्प्ट कर सकता है लो रेट्स से टैक्स कलेक्ट करने के लिए और नो कलेक्शन ऑफ टैक्स. So where the assessing officer on an application made by a person under sub rule 1 of Rule 37G is satisfied that existing and estimated tax liability of a person justified the collection of tax at low rate. अगर मतलब assessing officer को लगता है कि जो buyer है उसकी existing और जो estimated tax liability है वो मतलब लो रेट से अगर ऐसे वो जस्टिफाई करती है कि उसको लो रेट से टीसीएस कलेक्ट करना चाहिए तो वो ऐसा कर सकता है. तो इसके लिए एग्जिस्टिंग एंड एस्टिमेटेड टैक्स लायबिलिटी डिटरमाइन करेगा जो असेसमेंट ऑफिसर है, असेसिंग ऑफिसर है वो. सो इसके लिए देखेगा सो टैक्स पेबल ऑन एस्टिमेटेड इनकम ऑफ द प्रीवियस ईयर रेलेवेंट टू द असेसमेंट ईयर. सेकंड, टैक्स पेबल ऑन एसेट्स ऑन रिटर्न और एस्टिमेटेड इनकम एज द केस मे बी of the last 4 years previous year. Existing liability under the Act and the Wealth Tax Act 1957. Advance tax payment TDS and TCS for the relevant assessment year relevant to the previous year till the date of making. तो ये जो 4 कंडीशंस है, अगर वो इन चारों कंडीशन से एग्जिस्टिंग जो एस्टिमेटेड टैक्स लायबिलिटी डिटरमाइन करने के बाद में वो कम लोअर रेट से कलेक्ट करने के लिए टैक्स ऐसा कर सकता है. So second, the certificate given under sub rule 1 shall be valid for the assessment is specified in that certificate unless it is cancelled by the assessing officer at any time before the expiry of the specified period. An application for fresh certificate may be made if required after the expiry of the period of a validity of the earlier certificate given under sub rule 1. The certificate shall be valid only for the person named therein. The certificate shall be issued direct to the person responsible for collecting the tax under advice to the buyer who made an application for issue of such certificates. Thank you.
Simple.